Where are you watching this video from and what time is it? Let me know. The air is sharp cold enough that each breath leaves a little cloud hanging briefly before vanishing into the morning mist. You stand on the edge of a fjord, the water stretched out like polished steel, beneath a sky that is only just beginning to pale with the first light of dawn. The village stirs around you, thin trails of smoke rise lazily from turf-roofed longhouses, the scent of wood smoke mixing with salt from the sea. Seagulls wheel overhead their cries, a harsh chorus that seems to insist the day must begin whether anyone is ready or not. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now picture this, doors creak open, and figures step into the crisp air. A man drags a net toward the shore, its weight leaving a furrow in the damp earth. A woman adjusts a wool cloak tightly around her shoulders as she empties yesterday's ashes from the hearth. Children half asleep but curious peek out from behind door frames, squinting against the pale light. The fjord reflects their world back at the mountains, water and sky all stitched together in cold hues of blue and grey. The village wakes in layers like a fire slowly being coaxed to life. First the animals, sheep bleat from pens, goats stamp impatiently, dogs trot about wagging their tails and sniffing at the ground as if to take attendance. Then come the sharper sounds, an axe biting into fresh logs, the scrape of a wooden bucket being dragged to the well, the clatter of a pot set onto a stone hearth outside. Life here does not wait for leisure. The dawn is not gentle, it is a summons. Men prepare to row into the fjord for fish to haul in the day's food. Women gather tools for weaving or grinding grain, though the line between tasks is never as rigid as some might imagine. Everyone works, everyone contributes, or the village will not survive. It is easy to imagine standing here how tightly knit these people must be. They rely not just on family, but on neighbours. The village is an organism. If one limb falters, the whole suffers. Even the morning routine reflects this. A fisherman depends on the smith who sharpens his hooks. The smith depends on the shepherd who tends the flock whose wool is spun into clothing. The shepherd depends on the farmer whose barley becomes bread, and the farmer depends on all the rest. The cycle hums to life now right before your eyes. There's humour in the rhythm too. Imagine a young boy yawning so wide that he nearly drops the bucket he's supposed to carry, only to be gently swatted on the back by his grandmother, who mutters something about Thor's hammer being lighter than your eyelids. Or a goat slipping its pen and dashing into a neighbour's house, leaving behind chaos, laughter and a mess to clean before breakfast. The quirky detail that travellers often note about Viking villages is how sound carries differently here. With fjords acting as natural amplifiers, a cough from across the water can echo like a shout. Villagers sometimes joke that Odin himself must be listening to every word given how easily secrets slip along the fjord's surface. This means morning banter arguments, jokes, and even the gossip of who traded what last night doesn't stay private for long. As the sun edges higher, the light softens the sharp outlines of the mountains, revealing streaks of green clinging stubbornly to rocky slopes. A long ship moored at the shore creaks gently, its carved prow shaped like a dragon staring sternly into the horizon. It is not yet time for voyages or raids that will come later. For now it serves as a reminder of possibility of worlds beyond this quiet fjord. Step closer into the village, feel the crunch of frost beneath your boots. Hear the rhythm of work beginning in earnest, the steady swing of hammers from the forge, the hollow thump of a hand mill grinding barley, the splash of water as nets are hauled into place. The air grows warmer near the longhouse doors where fires breathe stronger and send plumes of smoke skyward. This is life before the glamour of battles, before the myths of voyages far across seas. At dawn in a Viking village, survival is built moment by moment. It is not grand, not heroic, yet it is the foundation upon which all else rests. And as the morning expands, the pulse of the village grows steady. Chickens scatter across the yard, their feathers flashing gold in the sunlight. A dog barks at gulls that swoop too close. Children finally tumble outside, laughing and shrieking, ready to turn chores into games. The fjord accepts it, all the noise, the smoke, the motion, and reflects back a world brimming with energy. The day has begun. The heart of the village glows from within a longhouse, its walls thick with turf and timber, its roof heavy with smoke that curls slowly into the dawn air. Step inside and you feel the sudden shift outside. The air was sharp, brittle with frost, but here it is heavy and warm, almost damp with the mingling scents of firewood animals and stew lingering from the night before. The hearth burns at the centre, a shallow pit lined with stones, flames licking upward toward the rafters, smoke weaving its way through a gap in the roof. Around this single flame the household gathers. A family perhaps 3 generations deep sits in a loose circle. Children sprawl on animal hides near the fire, fiddling with carved wooden toys or tugging at scraps of wool left from yesterday's weaving. A woman stirs a pot with a long-handled ladle, her hands moving without hesitation, trained by years of repetition. The sound is comforting, the quiet bubbling of porridge, the soft crackle of logs. A man sharpens a knife on a whetstone, the rasping sound punctuating the hush. His shoulders glisten faintly with the warmth, and every so often he leans closer to the fire to check the blade's edge. The hearth is more than a place of cooking. It is the spirit of the home. Everything in the longhouse radiates outward from it, both literally and symbolically. Births and deaths, meals and meetings, quiet whispers and boisterous laughter, all of it happens within sight of the flames. In Viking belief, fire itself was sacred, a gift that separated the civilized from the wild. Without it, the longhouse would be just a dark shell. With it, the structure becomes alive. There's a practical side too. The longhouse is long and narrow, its walls lined with benches covered in furs where people sleep, eat and work. At night the fire smoulders low enough to keep frost from biting into the timbers, but never too high lest sparks catch on straw or hide. In the morning embers are coaxed back into flame with careful breaths and handfuls of kindling. Some families even keep a small clay pot of embers, when travelling, ensuring that no home, no camp is ever without a spark to restart the hearth. Imagine trying to explain a modern lighter to them, one flick instant flame. They'd think it's sorcery, or perhaps accuse you of stealing secrets from Loki himself. Here every sound is amplified by the design of the house. A cough echoes off beams, the shuffle of feet carries along planks, the laughter of a child fills the rafters. Privacy is a rare luxury. Instead there is togetherness, sometimes comforting, sometimes exhausting. Jokes circulate quickly. If one person drops a spoon clumsily into the fire, the story is retold 3 times before breakfast ends. The quirky tidbit often noted by scholars is that longhouses sometimes doubled as barns. Sheep, goats, or even cattle were kept in the same building, partitioned off by wooden rails or wattle. The warmth of the animals added to the heat of the home, though the smell you can imagine was less than charming. A guest might comment that they could tell the wealth of a family by the fragrance, the richer the aroma, the more livestock inside. Not exactly the sort of status symbol you'd want on a modern resume, but it worked here. The light from the fire flickers across the walls, illuminating carved posts and hanging tools, axes, bowls, woven baskets. Everything has its place, though not in the polished sense of modern orderliness. Viking life was organised by necessity, not aesthetics. Tools hung where they would be grabbed quickly, clothing folded on benches where it might double as bedding, and dried fish suspended from rafters like strange decorations. As the porridge thickens, bowls are set out. The children eagerly scoop theirs steam, fogging their faces as they blow across the surface before digging in. The adults eat more slowly, exchanging words about the day ahead, the nets that must be mended, the field that needs turning, the woodpile that looks dangerously low. Plans are not written or scheduled, but spoken aloud here around the hearth, binding the family into a shared purpose. Laughter breaks out when the youngest child sneaks a second helping, pretending no one noticed. The grandmother, sharp-eyed, catches him and swats the back of his head lightly with a wooden spoon, muttering something about greedy ravens. The boy giggles, cheeks stuffed victorious in his small rebellion. It's a reminder that even in a world of survival and struggle there is room for play. The hearth is also a place of story. While the pot cools and the bowls empty, tales begin to flow, stories of ancestors, of gods, of strange lands seen by traders. A man gestures dramatically with his knife, recounting how Odin once traded an eye for wisdom. A girl listens, wide-eyed fingers tangled in her hair, trying to picture a god with a single piercing gaze. These tales shape the imagination, blur the line between myth and memory, and remind each listener that their lives are part of something vast. Step back for a moment out of the longhouse. From outside, the structure looks humble turf, blending into the landscape, smoke leaking lazily into the air. But within it is alive, a pulse of warmth, voices and flame. The hearth keeps the household tethered, keeps the cold at bay, and ensures that when the day unfolds, each person carries with them a spark from that single fire. And so, with bellies warmed and voices rising, the longhouse exhales its family into the waking village, ready to face whatever the fjord, the fields, or the gods might send. Step out into the cold again and notice how the houses of the village seem to blend into the land itself. At first glance, you might mistake them for hills or grassy mounds. The walls are built of thick timber beams lashed together and packed with clay or turf for insulation. The roofs sag under heavy layers of sod grass sprouting on top, as though the earth itself were reclaiming the structures. In truth, this blending with nature is no accident, it is survival, a form of camouflage against both the weather and the eyes of strangers. Each longhouse stretches long and narrow, sometimes up to 30 metres, though many are smaller. From the outside there is little ornament aside from the occasional carved dragon head above a doorway, or painted shield hung as a marker. Yet the details tell a story of pride. A neatly thatched roof signals diligence. A sturdily braced door announces strength. A carved lintel over an entrance whispers of artistry amid harsh necessity. Step closer to one of these homes. Run your hand along the timber, rough, uneven, scarred from axes rather than saws. The scent of resin still lingers in the grain. Nails are rare here. Instead, pegs and joinery hold the structure together. It's not elegant, but it is enduring. And in these northern winds, enduring is all that matters. Inside, the architecture follows a rhythm. Central hearth, sleeping benches along the walls, poles rising into the rafters where smoke gathers. Firs line the benches, softening hard planks and providing insulation from the cold ground. Weapons hang ready, an axe within arm's reach, a spear propped against a post. Not because a raid is expected at every moment, but because readiness is a habit so ingrained it becomes furniture. Here is a quirky little detail: turf roofs, while heavy and laborious to maintain, actually become ecosystems. Birds nest in the grass, sometimes pecking curiously at the smoke holes. On rainy days, water drips slowly through in places despite all the patchwork. Families joke that their roof is both their protector and their worst leaky neighbour. Imagine trying to convince a modern homeowner that their house should grow weeds on top for warmth. They'd call it madness. But here it's genius. Villagers move easily among these structures, treating the narrow lanes between them as extensions of the longhouses. Smoke hangs low, mingling with the steam from cooking pots. A woman sweeps the packed earth threshold with a bundle of birch twigs. A boy climbs onto a roof to chase away a pesky raven, his boots slipping in the damp turf. From above, the entire settlement looks like it's grown from the soil itself, not imposed upon it. The houses also serve as a form of social map. The chieftain's hall, larger and sturdier, commands respect simply by its size and central position. Families of greater means keep larger hearths, and perhaps an extra partition for storage or animals. Poorer households cluster at the edges, their homes smaller, their roofs sagging lower. Yet even these modest homes tell stories of hands that built with what they had, of families that cling fiercely to the warmth within. There's artistry too in what outsiders might dismiss as crude. Posts are carved with simple knotwork. Wooden shutters, though uneven, bear etched symbols for luck or protection. On some doors, chalk or charcoal drawings of Thor's hammer serve as both ward and welcome, reminding all who enter that the gods guard this threshold. The design of the longhouse reflects a truth: Vikings did not separate survival from beauty. Even as they built with mud and logs, they carved, painted, and adorned. The house itself became a living canvas, one that echoed the identity of the family inside. Picture nightfall here. The houses seem to disappear into the landscape, glowing faintly only from slits of light at doorways. From the fjord, the village would look like little more than lumps of earth, faint smoke curling upward, no brighter than the stars above. Perhaps this was a defence an enemy approaching would see little. Perhaps it was simply practicality. Either way, the effect is haunting, as though the land itself has sprouted people and fire, and so as you walk the narrow path between timber and turf, you feel how deeply these houses root the Vikings in their world. They are not mere shelters, but living spaces, repositories of family memory, and quiet guardians of survival. Each roof, each post, each carved lintel whispers the same truth: life here is hard, but it is also claimed, shaped, and held fast by those determined to endure. By now the village is fully awake, and the rhythm of chores beats like a steady drum. Step outside and watch as the community divides into its many roles, each task distinct yet woven together into the larger tapestry of survival. Morning is not a time for idleness here. Every hand, large or small, has a duty to perform. Women step into the crisp air first, many with infants bundled against their chests, older children tugging at their skirts. They carry wooden buckets toward the well or the riverbank, their footsteps crunching against frost-hardened ground. The buckets knock together with a hollow clunk, and soon the splash of water adds to the morning chorus. Younger girls kneel at washing stones, slapping garments against the smooth surfaces, while teasing each other with jokes sharp as gull cries. One laughs so hard she tips backward into the shallow water, earning a scolding from her mother and chuckles from everyone else. Men set to heavier tasks. Some hoist fishing nets onto their shoulders, trudging toward the waiting boats. Others turn toward the wood's axes, glinting in the pale light. The swing of wood against wood echoes across the fjord, steady and hypnotic. The pile of logs near each longhouse grows steadily, for fire is as much a currency as silver. Without it the cold wins. Children weave between adults like little foxes, sometimes helping, sometimes hindering. A boy feeds scraps to chickens, only to shriek when a particularly greedy hen chases him across the yard. A girl too small to carry water helps by gathering twigs, her arms full of brittle sticks that snap under their own weight. Work here doubles as play, though the lesson is clear, even the smallest member must contribute. Inside the homes, the older or less able take on quieter duties. Grandparents repair clothing fingers still nimble enough to thread needles through wool. Others tend to babies rocking cradles with a practiced sway humming songs, whose words are half lullaby, half prayer. The continuity is striking, every generation folded into the cycle of chores, none left behind. There is a curious tidbit about Viking life that often surprises modern ears. Hygiene was taken quite seriously. Among the chores you'll see men combing their beards with bone combs, women cleaning their hair with lye soap, and even children splashing faces with cold water. Grooming tools are so common in graves that some joke Vikings were the metrosexuals of their age. Imagine one of these bearded men leaning over to borrow your eyeliner, you'd laugh, but to them appearance mattered nearly as much as steel. The smell of food joins the symphony of chores. Smoke from outdoor hearths carries the aroma of fish. Being smoked bread, baking on hot stones, and porridge sweetened with honey. Dogs circle, hopefully tails, wagging eyes, trained on any hand that might drop a scrap. Goats bleat impatiently for milking their cries so indignant they sound almost human. Amid the bustle you notice the way order emerges without anyone shouting commands. Each person knows their role. The fisherman sharpens hooks, the shepherd checks fences, the blacksmith prepares the forge. The chores are instinctual, embedded in memory, passed down like stories. If one falters, another steps in. The community operates less like a chain of command and more like a web of responsibility, each thread supporting the rest. Of course humour slips in. A man lugging a water bucket pretends to stumble dramatically, splashing bystanders, then grins as they curse and laugh. Two children sneak honey from a pot, smearing their faces until they shine like mischievous little bears. A woman rolling dough swats her husband with flour-dusted hands when he tries to steal a piece before it's ready. These moments, small and fleeting, remind you that even in a life so tied to survival, joy is not forgotten. By midday, the rhythm settles into steadiness. The clang of hammers, the rustle of straw, the lowing of cattle all blend into a background hum, as natural as wind through pine. It is a soundscape of necessity, a chorus that says we live, we work, we endure. As you step back and look over the village, you see the beauty of this rhythm. Chores may appear mundane, but together they are the lifeblood of the community. Each bucket carried, each log split, each garment mended keeps the cold and hunger at bay. And though no one boasts about them, these quiet tasks are the foundation upon which every saga, every raid, every legendary voyage is built. As the morning deepens, attention turns to the fields and the precious strips of farmland carved out of the rugged northern landscape. You walk along a worn path that leads away from the cluster of longhouses toward open patches of soil where families bend low their backs, forming a rhythm as steady as the waves against the fjord. These fields are small compared to the endless plains of southern Europe, but they are the heartbeat of this community. Crops here are hardy, chosen not for delicacy but for survival. Barley waves in the wind, its golden heads already bending with promise. Rye stands tall and stubborn, ready to endure frost that would kill weaker plants. Flax grows in tidy rows, destined not just for food, but for fibres that will become linen. Turnips, beans, and cabbages swell beneath the soil, or spread their leaves wide in the weak northern sun. Each plant is a gamble against the short-growing season, and each harvest will decide whether bellies stay full through winter. Farmers bend with simple tools, wooden ploughs tipped with iron hoes with rough handles, sickles that glint like crooked smiles. Oxen lumber slowly pulling ploughs through damp earth. Their breath steams in the cold morning nostrils, flaring as they drag the heavy weight. Children trot beside them, tossing handfuls of seed with reckless enthusiasm, some scattering more into their own boots than into the furrows. Still, every seed matters. There's a curious detail that might surprise you. Viking farmers often use seaweed as fertilizer. Living so close to the fjords, they hauled kelp and seaweed from the shore, spreading it across the soil to enrich the land. Imagine dragging dripping slimy bundles uphill just to feed your turnips, an unglamorous task, yet it worked wonders. In a way, it's one of the first sustainable recycling programs centuries before anyone coined such a phrase. Farming is not just work here. It is a seasonal ritual, a rhythm older than memory. Each action is accompanied by muttered charms or whispered invocations to the gods. A farmer might trace Thor's hammer in the soil with his plough handle, hoping for protection from storms. A woman sowing seeds may hum a tune that her grandmother taught her, a tune that claims to wake the earth from its slumber. These are not idle superstitions, but threads that bind the physical to the spiritual, farming to faith. Work in the fields also doubles as a social gathering. Families labour side by side, gossiping between rows, trading news of who is courting whom and complaining about weather, as if their grumbles might sway the clouds. Children chase each other with clods of earth until a sharp call reins them back in. Laughter rises, carried on the breeze, blending with the caw of distant crows. Farming may be hard labour, but it is rarely silent. And yet, despite all their efforts, the Vikings know the fields are fickle. One summer too wet, one frost too early, and months of work vanish overnight. That fear lingers in every bent back, in every careful planting. You can almost feel it in the soil itself, as though the earth holds its breath, waiting to decide whether it will be generous or cruel. Not all crops are destined for food. Barley, for instance, often finds its way into ale, the safest drink when water grows stale or contaminated. After all, what's the point of enduring endless field work if you can't raise a horn of ale at the end of the day? The brewing itself becomes another chore, but one everyone greets with far more enthusiasm than hauling seaweed. Animals watch from the edges of the fields, goats nibbling at low branches, sheep wandering dangerously close to the crops, a dog barking furiously to herd them away. Even in this pastoral scene, chaos lurks at the edges, always threatening to undo the careful order. A farmer waves his arms wildly, cursing at a goat that has broken loose and decided barley makes a fine breakfast. The goat, of course, ignores him, chewing with smug indifference. As the sun climbs, sweat beads on foreheads despite the cool air. Shirts cling to backs, hands grow raw, and the smell of earth clings to everyone. Still there is pride in the furrows stretching neatly behind the plough, in the sight of a field slowly filling with green life. These are the quiet victories that will never make it into sagas or songs, but without them no saga would ever be possible. You stand at the edge of the fields, watching as the community works together in this ancient dance between people and land. Every seed planted is an act of defiance against hunger, every furrow a small promise that tomorrow might be kinder. And though the soil is stubborn, though the seasons are short, the Vikings endure. They do not merely farm, they wrestle with the earth, and through grit-wit, and no small amount of humour, they coax it into sustaining them. Step beyond the fields, and you'll find another rhythm of Viking survival, unfolding among the pens and pastures. Here the animals make their presence known long before you see them. The bleating of goats rises like a chorus of complaints, sheep murmur and stamp their hooves, and cows bellow with voices so deep they shake the air. Chickens cluck and flap, scattering feathers across the dirt, while pigs grunt as though narrating their own mischief. This is not a quiet place. It is a barnyard symphony, a soundtrack of daily life. The animals are more than background noise. They are wealth, sustenance, and survival wrapped in fur, wool, and feathers. Sheep provide wool for clothing spun into thick garments that guard against the northern chill. Cows give milk, which becomes butter cheese, and a steady source of nourishment even in winter. Goats, smaller and easier to keep, serve much the same purpose, though with the added perk of being endlessly curious and occasionally exasperating. Chickens scatter eggs across the straw, though they are as likely to hide them in impossible-to-reach places as to leave them in a tidy nest. Pigs are perhaps the cheekiest of the lot, rooting through scraps with snouts that seem to smell food 3 villages away. They are messy, noisy, and perpetually hungry. Yet they are also valued for their meat is hearty, and their fat precious in a land where every calorie matters. A saying might as well be coined here: a Viking without a pig is a Viking without a winter. One quirky tidbit: archaeologists have found that some Vikings kept pet cats to chase mice in the storehouses, and even small dogs, not just for work but for companionship. One saga mentions a woman mourning her little lapdog as deeply as a family member. Imagine that: fierce warriors who carved their names into history, yet also doting on tiny animals that would look at home on a modern couch. It's a reminder that tenderness hides in unexpected corners. Tending livestock is no easy task. At dawn, herders open crude gates and drive animals toward rough pastures or clearings, where they can graze on whatever grass or scrub the season provides. Young boys run after the herds, waving sticks, shouting to keep stragglers from wandering into the fields of crops. Dogs bark and dart, masters of control in this chaos, guiding animals with sharp turns and well-timed snaps of teeth. The bond between shepherd and dog is nearly unspoken, a dance built on trust and practice. Milking takes place in the shadow of the barns, women crouching low with wooden pails, hands moving with practiced efficiency. Cows flick their tails in irritation, striking unsuspecting cheeks with muddy swipes. Goats, less patient, wriggle and bleat, forcing milkers to mutter curses through clenched teeth. Yet by the end of the chore, the pails slosh with rich white liquid, soon to be churned into butter, or poured into clay vessels for storage. Barns themselves are simple structures, wooden frames thatched or turf roofs and walls reinforced with stone. Inside, the smell is overwhelming: hay manure, sweat, and the musky warmth of animals pressed close together. Yet this smell is not unpleasant to the villagers. It is the fragrance of life, a reminder that these animals mean food, clothing, and survival. At night, the barns radiate warmth, and sometimes children sneak in to nap against the sides of the cows, lulled to sleep by the sound of steady breathing. Of course, chaos often reigns. A sheep bolts unexpectedly, dashing into the village lanes with children shrieking behind it. A cow knocks over a bucket of milk, and the gathered cats treat it as a feast. Chickens flutter wildly onto roofs, forcing someone to climb up with curses and flapping arms. These little disruptions are met with laughter, irritation, and resignation in equal measure, because this too is the rhythm of Viking life. But beyond the humour lies constant vigilance. Animals are vulnerable to predators: wolves prowling at the edges of the forest, foxes stealing into coops, even bears descending when hunger drives them close. Every Viking child grows up knowing the danger of leaving gates unlatched or barns unguarded. A single careless night could cost the village dearly. From the perspective of wealth, livestock is also status. The family with more cows commands respect. The one with only a handful of goats may struggle for recognition. Yet no matter the number, each animal is treated as a vital piece of the family's survival puzzle. Their care is shared across all hands, their value carved into the community's sense of prosperity. As you stand in the midst of bleating, mooing, clucking, and barking, you realize that the Viking village is not only human. It is a partnership between people and animals woven together by necessity and care. Without them, the village would collapse. With them, it thrives, noisy, messy, and full of life in every corner. Beyond the barns and fields, the children of the village claim their own corners of the world. Their playgrounds are not swings and slides, but the uneven terrain between longhouses, the banks of the fjord, and the hay-strewn yards where adults toil. Yet in their laughter and games, you see early lessons in survival, agility, and community. Small girls balance on logs as though they were tightropes, arms outstretched, wobbling dangerously, yet laughing all the while. Boys chase one another with wooden swords, the clatter echoing against walls and fence posts. Even the youngest participate, hauling tiny buckets or chasing chickens that have wandered into forbidden territory. In this way, play and work blur. Lessons are absorbed without the formality of schoolrooms. Every game carries practice. Running after a stray animal teaches speed. Climbing over rocks and logs teaches coordination. A mock fight teaches both bravery and caution. Some children are already apprenticed in small tasks, shadowing adults in daily work. A boy might help his father sharpen tools, clumsily holding a whetstone in place as sparks fly. A girl might accompany her mother to the hearth, learning to stir pots, grind grain, or spin fibres into thread. These lessons are essential. Survival is taught early, and no experience is wasted. Yet mischief is constant. A child might hide a goat behind the longhouse, provoking chaos when it bolts suddenly. A particularly clever one could smear ash across a sibling's face, while they sleep, igniting laughter that echoes across the village. These small acts are tolerated, sometimes scolded, but always woven into the social fabric. Humour is as vital to survival as food or fire, for it binds people together in times of stress. The quirkiest note. Some Viking children were entrusted with surprisingly important responsibilities. Archaeological evidence suggests that even toddlers were sometimes used to carry messages between households or to warn of approaching ships. Imagine sending a 3-year-old across a village as a messenger, slightly terrifying, yet the method worked, probably because the child's small size and speed were underestimated by anyone observing from outside. Education in the sense of formal schooling does not exist here, but knowledge is absorbed by osmosis. Children learn to identify plants, remember paths, recognize the call of dangerous animals, and recite oral traditions of the gods and ancestors. Memory is training, observation is wisdom. By the time a child reaches adolescence, they are fluent in both village chores and the subtle politics of social hierarchy. The daily rhythm of play and work is interspersed with moments of wonder. They may stare for minutes at the fjord, watching boats glinting in the morning sun, or birds diving into water with practiced precision. A rainbow might stretch across the sky after a brief rain, and the children run along its arc as though chasing the gods themselves. Their laughter rings like bells, blending with the natural symphony of the village, the bray of animals, the clatter of tools, the rush of wind. Even meals teach lessons. Children sit on benches around the hearth, passing bowls of porridge or fish, while being reminded to eat carefully and share generously. Mishaps spilled milk, stolen bread are met with corrective gestures or gentle scolding. These moments instill manners, respect, and social awareness alongside physical skills. At night, the same children settle in longhouses, curling against furs beside siblings or parents. They listen to sagas whispered in low voices, stories of gods and heroes, of cunning and courage. Even in slumber, lessons continue the rhythm of the spoken word, the cadence of myth, the importance of remembering the past. Dreams mix with reality imagination, blending with the practical knowledge of surviving in a cold, demanding world. Observe the village through the eyes of a child, and you see not only play but preparation. Each chase, each tumble, each burst of laughter is a rehearsal for adult life. It is training in speed, strategy, observation, and social negotiation. Humour and mischief are survival tools as much as axes and ploughs. By the end of the day, children may be weary but also accomplished. They have contributed, learned, and bonded. Their presence is both chaotic and essential, a living reminder that the next generation carries the knowledge, the skill, and the laughter needed to keep the village alive for years to come. As the children chase, tumble, and play, the adults shift attention to one of the village's most critical centres, the forge. The blacksmith's domain is a furnace of fire, smoke, and iron, the heat radiating outward in waves that make the crisp morning air feel distant. Sparks leap unpredictably, scattering across stone and wood, yet the smith works with practiced calm, knowing exactly when and where to strike. Here skill is forged in both metal and habit. One misstep can ruin not just a tool, but livelihoods. The forge is a hub of both work and social significance. Men gather around it, axes, knives, and ploughshares laid before them for sharpening or repair. The hammer strikes anvil in steady rhythm, echoing across the village like a heartbeat. Metal is bent, shaped, and hardened, each strike deliberate. Even small tasks carry immense importance. A dull blade could mean a failed hunt, an unharvested field, or vulnerability during raids. Fire is both ally and adversary. Coals glow red, heating metal to a malleable state, yet one careless spark can ignite thatched roofs or straw piles. The smith respects the fire as both tool and godlike force, invoking small blessings to Thor or the ancestral spirits before striking. In some sagas, blacksmiths themselves are considered touched by magic, capable of creating items imbued with luck or strength. Perhaps this is exaggeration, but there is truth in skill that seems uncanny to outsiders. A quirky tidbit of forged life smiths often chewed or held small strips of leather in their mouths, while working a habit thought to protect teeth from sparks or help them concentrate. Modern observers might cringe, but it was an accepted practical idiosyncrasy. The metal, the fire, and even the habit of holding leather converge to form a controlled chaos. Apprentices often shadow the smith young boys, and sometimes girls learning the rhythm of bellows, hammer, and tongs. They learn by watching, by trial and error, and by listening to the occasional sharp admonition. Mistakes are tolerated only to a point. An unheated piece of iron or a misaligned strike teaches lessons far more quickly than words ever could. The sound of the forge blends with the village, becoming part of the morning chorus. Children might pause in their play to watch molten metal glow or sparks fly from the hammer, their fascination mingling with awe. Even those accustomed to survival see wonder here, the way fire shapes rock-hard iron into something useful and beautiful. Other blacksmith tasks include repairing harnesses, forging nails for construction, and producing cooking utensils. Nothing is frivolous. Every piece of iron is precious, hard-earned, and necessary. The smith's work bridges the mundane and the heroic. The same hands that mend a plough may later craft a sword carried into legend. Humour creeps in here too. Apprentices often try to mimic the hammering rhythm, missing the mark entirely, and sending sparks onto their own boots or onto the smith's legs. The resulting yelps and laughter echo against the walls. Even the blacksmith sometimes chuckles, smacking the apprentice gently and muttering something about Loki teaching lessons in patience. The forge is also a social place. Villagers gather, exchanging news gossip or small transactions. A fisherman might barter a net for a sharpened blade. A farmer might offer cheese for a new hoe. These interactions reinforce trust and interdependence. Survival here is never solitary. The forge's heat, light and noise contrast sharply with the calm of the fjord or the open fields. Yet it is a cornerstone of the village's existence. Without the smith tools, fail weapons, rust and progress stalls. With the smith, the community thrives, blades stay sharp, ploughs stay effective, and survival becomes a cooperative art. Standing near the forge, you see the essence of Viking ingenuity. Fire and iron skill and patience, risk and humour. These elements combine to create both necessity and culture. Each strike, each spark, each carefully shaped piece of metal is a testament to endurance mastery and the vibrant pulse of life in the village. From the forge, your gaze drifts toward the fjord, where the water gleams like liquid silver under the morning sun. Boats rest along the shoreline, propped on wooden supports, or bobbing gently in shallow coves. They are slender, long, and surprisingly elegant, built to conquer both calm inlets and turbulent seas. The Viking longship is more than transportation. It is a symbol of identity, freedom, and ambition. Every plank, every rivet, every carved prow tells a story of voyages yet to come. The construction of these vessels is an art form perfected over generations. Skilled carpenters work side by side with the blacksmith, fashioning nails and rivets to exacting standards. Planks are steamed and bent into graceful curves, hulls reinforced to withstand waves that could snap weaker crafts in half. The wood is often oak thick and resilient, chosen for its combination of strength and flexibility. Iron is scarce, so each nail is used with precision. Life along the fjord is inseparable from these ships. Fishermen launch early casting nets or lines into cold water, their movements practiced and efficient. Children sometimes follow along the banks, tossing pebbles, and imagining themselves captains of the grandest ships ever built. Occasionally a mischievous child dares to poke a finger at a boat's hull, drawing laughter and a gentle scolding from adults. The water is as much playground as livelihood. The fjord is not just for travel or fishing, it carries news trade and opportunity. Traders from distant lands arrive occasionally, their boats creaking under goods from foreign lands, spices, textiles, and sometimes coins stamped with strange faces. Villagers gather at the shore, eyes bright with curiosity. Some items are bartered for grain or livestock, others saved for special occasions. The fjord is a living artery of connection, bridging the village to a larger unseen world. Here's a quirky detail. Viking ships often had a small carved figurehead at the prow, sometimes a dragon serpent or fierce animal. These were believed to ward off sea monsters, evil spirits, or even rivals. Imagine taking a family pet, carving it onto a boat, and sending it out into the fjord as both charm and warning. It sounds whimsical, yet the belief was sincere and widespread. Life along the fjord is also practical. Boats are carefully maintained hulls patched with tar and animal hair to keep them watertight, sails repaired with wool and linen. Every voyage depends on attention to detail. A single missed crack could spell disaster in the open sea, and so villagers inspect mend and polish with a kind of quiet reverence. Fishing itself is a delicate art. Nets are cast into the fjord, weighted with small stones, sometimes baited with scraps of fish. Early morning catches are unpredictable cod herring or occasionally salmon. Fish is consumed fresh salted for preservation, or smoked over slow fires for winter stores. The smell of smoking fish mingles with the village air, adding a sharp tang that announces sustenance is nearby. Even leisure and learning intertwine with the fjord. Youngsters practice rowing under the watchful eye of elders, learning to read tides, currents and winds. They are taught which birds signal fish below, which clouds foretell storms, and how to navigate without maps, relying instead on stars' landmarks and instinct. Observation becomes both skill and story. The fjord, like the village itself, is a teacher. Its moods, calm mornings, sudden squalls, shimmering reflections, and misty evenings impart lessons in patience, resilience, and respect. The water offers food, freedom, and danger in equal measure, shaping the culture and daily rhythm of life. As you stand at the water's edge, you see the village not as isolated huts, but as a community intimately connected to the land and sea. The fjord is a mirror reflecting both the beauty and the risk of existence here. And in every boat, paddle and net you glimpse the ingenuity, courage and spirit that define the people who call this place home. Moving from the fjord toward the village's communal spaces, you notice how these areas serve as centres of gathering trade and ritual. Unlike the private longhouses, the open yards and clearings are alive with interaction. It's here that the village breathes socially, where stories, deals, disputes, and laughter mingle with the scent of smoke and salt. The central square is modest by modern standards, a flat area of compacted earth ringed by fences and scattered with wooden posts, but it is alive with activity. Here villagers meet to exchange goods, discuss plans and share news. A woman might offer freshly churned butter for a length of cloth. A man displays his sharpened axes, trading them for fish or grain. The transactions are immediate face-to-face, governed by trust, skill and negotiation rather than coin alone. Children dart between adults, sometimes assisting, sometimes simply observing. Their eyes are bright, taking in every deal, every argument, every humorous slip. They absorb the unspoken rules of social interaction: who speaks first, how respect is shown, and when humour can diffuse tension. Even in a society focused on survival, these lessons are vital. One quirky detail: the Vikings were known to settle minor disputes through games or challenges rather than direct confrontation. A tug of war with ropes, a race across fields, or a test of strength with stones could settle a disagreement. Modern readers might find it quaint, yet it was an effective social mechanism that maintained cohesion without bloodshed. The square also serves as a stage for storytelling. By midday, elders gather groups around small fires or under the shade of timber posts, recounting tales of gods, giants, and legendary heroes. These narratives are rich, vibrant, and layered with both moral and practical lessons. Young listeners sit cross-legged, wide-eyed, absorbing lessons of courage, loyalty, and cunning that will inform their behaviour in daily life. Beyond the tales, the square hosts communal labour. Villagers might gather to repair a fence, build a new longhouse, or drag timber from the forest. Tasks are shared according to skill size and energy, each individual contributing to the collective effort. Humour punctuates the labour: someone trips over a log, another feigns dramatic exhaustion. Children toss small sticks into the work zone to create controlled chaos. These interruptions, while inconvenient, strengthen social bonds. The quirkiness continues in ritual practice. Seasonal ceremonies, sometimes improvised in the square, include dances, offerings, and symbolic acts of thanks to the gods. Even minor celebrations, successful harvests, births, or the return of a fisherman might be marked with a small ritual involving fire food or simple symbols etched into posts or drawn in the dirt. The supernatural is intertwined seamlessly with the mundane. The line between work and worship is subtle and porous. Vikings are known for their fierce reputation in battle, but the communal space shows another side: cooperation, negotiation, and humour. Here, reputation is built not only on martial skill, but also on fairness, generosity, and cleverness. A well-negotiated trade or a shared laugh can solidify one's standing as much as a sword stroke. Look closely and you'll notice signals of hierarchy. The chieftain may be seated in a slightly elevated spot, his presence recognised without ceremony. Elders stand to the side, consulted when disputes arise. Even subtle cues: who speaks first, who laughs at whose joke communicates status, ensuring the village functions smoothly, despite the absence of written laws. By late morning, the square is a vibrant nexus of life. The air hums with overlapping sounds, bartering voices, children, laughing animals, calling hammers, striking in nearby workshops. Every action carries both purpose and story. The village is more than a collection of houses. It is a living organism with the square as its beating heart, uniting survival culture and human connection into a single dynamic experience. From the village square, your attention is drawn to the smoke rising from communal hearths, signalling the preparation of food, a cornerstone of survival and social cohesion. The aroma of roasting meat, simmering broths, and baking grains weaves through the air, inviting both villagers and curious onlookers to gather. The hearth is more than a place to cook. It is a focal point for learning, conversation, and tradition. Women, often the primary keepers of the kitchen, move with quiet efficiency, stirring pots, tending fires, and chopping root vegetables with worn knives. Smoke curls around their faces, mingling with the scent of herbs and salted fish. The process is deliberate, nothing is wasted. Bones are saved for broths. Scraps feed animals, and leftover grains are transformed into porridge or flatbreads. Every act is purposeful, reflecting the harsh reality that in this northern climate food must be respected, rationed, and cherished. Children hover nearby, curious and eager. Some help grind grain, their small hands moving unevenly but learning rhythm and technique. Others stir thickening stews, accidentally splattering a bit of porridge onto boots, or hair earning scoldings followed by laughter. In this way, culinary skills are absorbed, naturally preparing the next generation for the constant challenge of feeding a family through cold winters and uncertain harvests. A quirky detail, Vikings sometimes used fermented foods not just for preservation but for flavour. Fermented fish and grains, while pungent to modern noses, were a staple, imparting both nutrients and taste. Imagine stepping into a kitchen where the smell hits you like a tidal wave. It may be off-putting at first, but to the villagers it is the scent of sustenance and expertise. Hearths themselves are marvels of adaptation. Stone or clay-lined pits contain firewood and coals, with pots hung on iron hooks or balanced on stones. Smoke escapes through holes in the roof or walls, creating a gentle draft that simultaneously ventilates and warms. Even in freezing weather, the hearth radiates life, its glow reflected in eyes both young and old. Meals are often simple but rich in culture. Porridge fish, boiled vegetables, and occasional meat from livestock or game form the staples. Herbs and wild greens add flavour and colour, while berries or honey provide rare sweetness. Eating is communal, everyone gathers around long benches, sharing bowls and passing food with deliberate gestures. Conversation flows, punctuated by laughter, minor squabbles, and storytelling. Even the youngest child participates, learning both table manners and social dynamics. The preparation of food is also intertwined with ritual. Before cutting into a freshly caught fish or roasted leg of meat, small blessings are offered to gods or ancestors. Some sprinkle salt or make a simple mark in the ash, acknowledging that survival is not purely labour. It is also protection, fortune, and gratitude. These acts may seem quaint, but they reinforce social cohesion, shared values, and mindfulness in everyday tasks. Work at the hearth is never solitary. Apprentices, children, and elders alike contribute. A girl may grind barley beside her grandmother, both humming a tune, while a boy keeps watch over simmering pots to prevent boiling over. Humour is abundant. Someone might accidentally flip a chunk of fish onto the floor, only to have a dog claim it as a reward for diligence. Life and laughter intermingle seamlessly with labour. Beyond sustenance, the hearth serves as a classroom. Children learn timing, temperature, flavour, and the delicate balance between heat and patience. They watch how seasoned cooks adjust fires, how ingredients transform under heat, and how subtle techniques can elevate simple food to something sustaining and even celebratory. Knowledge here is experiential, absorbed through observation, repetition, and correction. By late morning, the village smells of sustenance and warmth. Hearths glow in longhouses, filling interiors with gentle heat. Outside, smoke spirals into the sky, signalling the rhythm of the day to neighbours and visitors alike. Food is more than survival. It is culture, community, and a daily reminder of human ingenuity in the harshest of climates. The hearth is both a literal and symbolic centre of life, binding villagers to one another and to the land that feeds them. Just beyond the hearths, you notice the longhouses themselves, monolithic wooden structures that combine practicality, community, and artistry. Each longhouse is carefully constructed from timber, stone, and turf, with thatched roofs, sloping steeply to shed rain and snow. They are larger than one might expect, designed to house not just families but animals, tools, and sometimes guests all under one roof. The interior is a symphony of function. Central hearths provide warmth and cooking capability, while benches and platforms line the walls, serving as seats by day and beds by night. Smoke rises slowly through a roof, opening, mingling with the scent of cooking wood and the faintly earthy odour of packed floors. Floors are often layered with rushes or straw, periodically replaced to maintain hygiene. The architecture is simple, yet ingenious, capable of sheltering the community through harsh winters and turbulent storms. Families within the longhouse operate as a single unit, each member contributing to chores, food preparation and maintenance. Children sleep near parents or siblings' animals in separate enclosures within the structure, all organised to maximise warmth and efficiency. Privacy is minimal, but cooperation is constant. Every action within these walls, cooking, spinning, weaving, mending, feeds into the collective survival of the household. A quirky detail, some Viking longhouses included small niches for the storage of household spirits or protective charms. These might be carved symbols, simple figurines, or even strategically placed stones. It was believed that neglecting these could invite misfortune, whether from disease, fire, or rogue animals. The practical and the spiritual intertwine seamlessly in daily life, reminding the villagers that survival is both physical and metaphysical. Construction is often a communal effort. When building or repairing a longhouse, neighbours contribute labour-carrying planks, thatch, or turf. Young men and older boys may raise beams under the direction of skilled carpenters chanting or joking to keep morale high. Humour once again softens hard labour. Someone might miscalculate a beam, sending it wobbling dramatically only for others to catch it, with exaggerated grunts and laughter. Community and camaraderie are inseparable from craftsmanship. Daily routines within the longhouse are orchestrated carefully. Morning light illuminates woven tapestries or wall hangings that serve both decoration and insulation. Pots, wooden bowls and utensils are meticulously arranged, reflecting the attention to detail necessary for life in a resource-limited environment. Even minor items, a comb, a knife, a spindle, have designated places, reducing chaos and maximising efficiency. Animals inside the longhouse deserve attention too. Cattle, sheep or pigs are often kept in small pens or stalls, providing warmth and making it easier to feed and tend to them during the winter. Their presence adds to the ambient sounds and smells, yet they are fully integrated into household life. Humans and animals cohabit in a balance of care and practicality. Inside the longhouse is also a site of education and tradition. Elders teach younger members skills like weaving, tool repair, storytelling, and religious rites. A girl might learn to spin wool while listening to tales of Odin and Thor. A boy might observe his father fashioning a knife handle while absorbing lessons about patience and precision. Knowledge is transmitted not through books but through observation, mimicry, and participation. Even leisure finds its place. During breaks in chores, villagers sit near the hearth, crafting small wooden toys, carving symbols, or singing simple songs. Laughter punctuates these moments, bridging generations and reinforcing social bonds. A child may attempt to carve a miniature ship, and a parent might gently correct, demonstrating technique with humour and patience. By midday, the longhouse hums, with life smoke spiralling upward, the warmth radiating, tools clattering, and conversations mingling. The structure itself is more than shelter. It is the centre of cultural continuity, a space where survival, learning, creativity, and social connection coexist. Here you see the embodiment of Viking ingenuity, resourcefulness, and community spirit, a home as alive as the people it shelters. Beyond the longhouse, your attention is drawn to the village workshops where specialised crafts shape daily life. These spaces, smaller than the central forge yet equally vital, are dedicated to weaving, leatherworking, and tool-making, each hum of activity contributing to the fabric of survival. Here, villagers transform raw materials into clothing armour and implements, blending practicality with artistry. The weaving workshop is alive with motion. Spinning wheels creak rhythmically, twisting flax or wool into thread. Looms stretch taut with warps and wefts as hands deftly interlace fibres into cloth. Women and apprentices move in synchronised patterns, murmuring soft songs or counting under their breath. The fabrics produced are essential tunics, cloaks, sacks, and bindings for tools. Colour is minimal, earthy tones dominate, but the work is precise, strong, and long-lasting. Leatherworking is equally essential. Hides are stretched, scraped, and softened over hours or even days, eventually becoming footwear belts, pouches, and protective coverings. Tools for this craft, awls, knives, and needles, are carefully maintained, often repaired in the forge nearby. Leather is prized not only for durability but for versatility, capable of becoming armour or a simple container. In the hands of skilled workers, it transforms from rough hide into both function and expression. A quirky detail Viking sometimes used moss or lichens to help tan leather, adding both colour and suppleness. It might seem strange to modern eyes, but these natural additives were both abundant and effective, highlighting the resourcefulness that defines this society. Imagine rubbing moss into a hide, humming a tune, and watching it gradually transform into soft, workable leather, practical magic in everyday life. Toolmaking is another cornerstone. Axes, hammers, chisels, and simple ploughs are fashioned, sharpened, and repaired with the combined efforts of blacksmiths and carpenters. Each tool is vital. A dull axe can slow firewood collection, a misaligned plough can ruin a field, and a poorly made spear can cost lives during a raid. Villagers treat their tools with reverence, cleaning, oiling, and storing them meticulously. The workshops also serve as informal classrooms. Apprentices, children, and young adults learn by observation and practice. Mistakes are inevitable. A miscut piece of wood, a tear in a weaving a punctured hide. Yet these errors are valuable, teaching patience, attention, and resilience. Humour softens frustration. A botched loom project might elicit giggles from a child, followed by gentle correction and renewed effort. Social interaction is embedded in craft. Workshops are rarely solitary. A weaver might discuss news from a neighbouring village while counting threads. A leatherworker exchanges advice on tanning techniques. A toolmaker jokes about a particularly stubborn nail. These interactions reinforce community bonds, ensuring that survival skills are not only maintained but also shared and refined. Beyond practicality, crafts carry cultural significance. Patterns in textiles may reflect ancestral symbols or local lore. Carvings on leather or wood can indicate family lineage, religious devotion, or playful artistry. Even the simplest objects, spoons, bowls, or small toys, may carry subtle designs, a quiet testament to creativity and identity. The workshops hum with life, a microcosm of the village's broader ecosystem. Work learning and socialization intertwine seamlessly. Through these crafts, the Vikings exercise ingenuity, preserve tradition, and prepare for both the mundane challenges of daily survival and the extraordinary demands of conflict, travel, and ritual. By mid-afternoon, the workshop floors are littered with shavings, fibres, and small scraps, evidence of industriousness. Laughter, instruction, and occasional exclamations of frustration fill the air. Here, life is both productive and playful, a delicate balance that sustains the village physically, culturally, and emotionally. In this modest space, you witness the quiet genius of a society whose strength derives as much from skill and cooperation as from arms and courage. From the workshops, your gaze moves to the edge of the village where fields stretch toward the forested horizon. Agriculture here is the backbone of survival, dictating both daily routine and long-term strategy. Each patch of tilled soil represents countless hours of labour, careful observation, and inherited knowledge passed down through generations. The rhythm of planting, tending, and harvesting is both physical and social, binding families to the land and to each other. Ploughing begins in early spring when frost retreats and the soil softens. Long-handled ploughs tipped with iron and dragged by oxen cut furrows into the earth. Young boys follow closely, scattering seeds or helping guide the animals. Girls assist with smaller tasks such as marking rows or collecting stones that could damage ploughs. Every hand contributes and mistakes are learning opportunities. A misplanted seed can teach the value of precision, patience, and careful observation. Crops are varied but practical: barley, oats, rye, and sometimes vegetables like onions, cabbage, or beans. Barley is versatile, ground into flour for bread or fermented into ale. Rye provides hearty bread for winter, while oats might feed both humans and livestock. Crop rotation is minimal, dictated more by necessity than science. But villagers observe patterns. Some plots yield better after a season of rest, while others suffer from repeated use. Observation and memory guide agricultural decisions as much as tradition. A quirky tidbit. Vikings sometimes buried stones in fields to mark boundaries or ward off spirits, believed to influence crop growth. The stones, rough and often mismatched, add a strange aesthetic like tiny sentinels standing watch over the barley and rye. To modern eyes it seems superstitious, but in practice these markers maintained order and reflected cultural beliefs intertwined with daily labour. Irrigation is primitive but effective. Small channels divert water from nearby streams, keeping soil moist without drowning roots. Villagers also use natural fertilizers, manure from livestock, or composted plant matter to enrich the earth. Every decision balances risk and reward. Too little care yields poor harvests. Too much effort can drain time from other vital tasks. The act of planting and tending is accompanied by ritual and observation. Children learn to read the sky cloud formations, predict rain winds, hint at frost, and the sun's position marks the proper timing for sowing. Elders instruct with stories and mnemonic devices blending myth and practicality. A tale of Thor's hammer striking the earth might remind a child to ensure seeds are fully buried. Knowledge is encoded in narrative, ensuring that even those too young to plough can absorb lessons essential to survival. Harvesting is a communal affair. Villagers gather with sickles and scythes, cutting grain in rhythmic motions that echo across the fields. Bundles are stacked, threshed and stored carefully. Laughter songs and minor competitions, who can cut the most in a day, who bundles the neatest sheaf, transform labour into celebration. The harvest is as much about sustenance as it is about reinforcing bonds. Beyond practical concerns, fields carry symbolic weight. Boundaries define ownership, plots reflect family strength, and yield is a measure of collective effort. Crops are not merely food, they are currency, prestige and security. A failed harvest affects the entire village, while abundance strengthens social cohesion and morale. By afternoon, the fields are alive with motion oxen plodding steadily, villagers bending and standing in coordinated rhythm, children darting between rows and occasional animals grazing along edges. Dust rises in gentle clouds, mingling with the scent of tilled soil and distant smoke from the hearths. Each breath carries the essence of survival, toil and community spirit. Here at the boundary between human endeavour and the untamed natural world, you witness the Vikings' intimate relationship with the land. Every furrow, every seed, every observation is a testament to their ingenuity, resilience, and enduring connection to the earth that sustains them. Beyond the tilled fields, the forest rises like a dark wall, both a resource and a challenge for the villagers. Trees tower overhead, their trunks thick with age roots tangled like an ancient web. The forest is a source of firewood, building materials and game, yet it is also home to predators, hidden dangers and mysterious sounds that stir the imagination. Navigating it requires skill, caution, and respect. Foraging is a daily necessity. Villagers collect berries, mushrooms, and edible roots, often accompanied by children learning to identify safe species. Knowledge is transmitted orally. A slight discoloration might signal poison, while the texture and smell confirm edibility. Small bundles of herbs are gathered not only for food, but for medicine, willow bark, for pain nettles for nutrition, and various leaves for digestive issues. Nature itself becomes a classroom teaching observation, memory and survival. Hunting adds another layer of complexity. Archers and trackers follow deer, elk or smaller game reading tracks in the mud, and listening for subtle movements in brush or treetops. Dogs may assist alerting hunters to distant movement or flushing game into sight. The act requires patience and precision. A poorly aimed arrow could mean wasted effort or starvation for a family reliant on meat. Humour often punctuates these expeditions, as missed shots or startled wildlife lead to bursts of laughter, easing tension and teaching humility. A quirky detail: Vikings sometimes used moss-covered rocks or natural camouflage to conceal themselves while hunting. The effectiveness of these primitive methods is remarkable. An observer might pass within feet of a hunter without noticing. Such strategies highlight their intimate understanding of the natural environment and their ingenuity in exploiting it. Woodworking is intimately tied to the forest. Timber is harvested for boats, houses, and tools, each cut measured and intentional. Villagers respect the forest, taking only what is needed and allowing regrowth where possible. Trees are chosen not only for size but for grain strength and flexibility. Long straight oaks might become masts, sturdy pines might form planks, smaller branches are reserved for firewood. Every tree has purpose and potential. Forest animals, foxes, wolves, and birds are more than just background. They influence daily rhythms, marking seasons and signalling dangers. The cry of a hawk might indicate the approach of storm clouds. The tracks of a wolf could warn against leaving livestock unattended. Observing these creatures is both practical and cultural, contributing to oral traditions, cautionary tales, and even humour. Children are taught to read signs in the environment, transforming play into essential learning. The forest also provides materials for crafts and domestic life. Bark may be stripped for containers, or roofing sap for adhesives and twigs for small implements. Herbal knowledge extends beyond edibles. Leaves and roots are used for dyes, soaps, and ceremonial purposes. Villagers move through the woods with awareness, balancing respect, utility, and curiosity. Safety is paramount. Villagers carry knives, axes, or simple clubs prepared to defend themselves from both predators and accidents. Paths are often marked by subtle signs, stacked stones, notched trees, or cleared tracks to prevent getting lost. Yet part of the forest's appeal lies in its mystery. Even experienced adults respect its unpredictability, sharing tales of strange lights, eerie sounds, or mysterious creatures lurking in its depths. These stories, though, tinged with exaggeration, teach caution, vigilance, and respect for the unknown. By evening, the forest is alive with sound birds calling as they roost small animals rustling through underbrush, and the distant whisper of wind through branches. Villagers return with bundles of firewood, game, and herbs, their faces tired but satisfied. The forest has provided sustenance materials and lessons in patience and ingenuity, reaffirming the delicate balance between humans and nature. In this living classroom, each day reinforces survival skill and respect. The forest is simultaneously threat and ally, challenge and teacher. For the Vikings, it is an extension of the village, a vital, unpredictable and revered presence that shapes every aspect of life. As dusk approaches, attention shifts from the forest back to the water, where the village's reliance on fishing becomes evident. Nets, hooks, and simple traps are prepared with care, each one a testament to ingenuity honed over generations. Fishing is not only a means of sustenance, but a skill tied to observation timing and an intimate understanding of the fjord's rhythms. Villagers cast nets from small boats or along shallow banks, measuring depth by feel and intuition. Hooks baited with scraps of fish or insects are set strategically, relying on knowledge passed orally. Young apprentices observe silently, learning the subtleties of technique, how to angle a net, when to pull, and how to anticipate currents. Every catch carries both nourishment and education, reinforcing lessons in patience, skill, and attentiveness. The fjord offers a variety of species. Salmon and herring dominate, but cod, trout, and even eels supplement the diet. Seasonal shifts dictate strategy. Spring brings spawning fish in abundance, while winter demands ice fishing or preserved bait. Techniques vary, yet all reflect careful observation of natural patterns, highlighting the Vikings' adaptability and ecological intelligence. A quirky note: Vikings sometimes left small offerings such as a few fish bones or a carved token near favoured fishing spots. While practical superstition may have played a role, it also reinforced a sense of respect and mindfulness toward the environment. Even the youngest child learns that fishing is both labour and ritual, blending practicality with cultural continuity. Fishing is a communal affair. Villagers work side by side, hauling nets, untangling lines, and sharing the spoils. Laughter punctuates the labour. A fish flopping unexpectedly, a child accidentally stepping into shallow water, or a dog grabbing a fish before anyone notices. Humour smooths the tension, creates bonds, and teaches resilience. In these moments, social cohesion and survival skills are inseparable. Preservation follows the catch. Fresh fish is cleaned and consumed quickly, while excess is salted, smoked, or dried. Smokehouses located near the longhouses produce an aromatic haze that signals sustenance for winter. Every action reflects foresight. Preserving food ensures survival during harsh months when fishing is impossible or dangerous. Even leisure intersects with fishing. Children learn to wade into shallow waters, observing minnows or casting tiny nets for practice. Storytelling often accompanies work with elders, recounting exploits of great fishermen, legendary voyages, or even tales of sea monsters lurking just beyond sight. The oral tradition, humour, and observation blend seamlessly, instilling knowledge, courage, and social identity. The fjord at dusk is visually stunning. Sunlight glints off the water, painting waves in gold and silver. Reflections of boats, smoke, and distant hills shimmer like living artwork. Birds wheel overhead, calling as they return to nests, while the rhythmic splash of oars punctuates the otherwise tranquil scene. Villagers moving among boats, nets, and water embody a harmony between human activity and natural beauty, revealing a deep understanding of both. By nightfall, the day's work concludes. Nets are stowed, boats secured, and the village prepares for evening meals. Fishing has provided not just food, but lessons in patient skill and communal cooperation. The fjord once again reminds all who dwell beside it that survival is a dance between effort, observation, and respect for the forces beyond human control. As night descends, the village's spiritual life comes to the forefront, blending seamlessly with daily routines. Longhouses glow from the hearth's smoke spiraling skyward, while villagers gather in quiet corners or around small fires for prayer offerings or reflection. The Norse worldview is woven into every action, connecting the physical and the supernatural in a manner that informs survival ethics and community cohesion. Religious practice is intimate yet pervasive. Small wooden idols or carved stones often occupy niches near hearths or in outdoor shrines representing gods like Odin, Thor, or Freya. Offerings, grain milk, or small figurines are placed carefully, sometimes accompanied by whispered words of thanks or request for protection. These acts are not grandiose. They are practical, designed to invoke divine favour in daily tasks such as farming, hunting, or fishing. A quirky detail, some households kept miniature horses carved from wood as symbols of fertility and prosperity, believing they would influence livestock health. Modern observers might smile at the simplicity, yet these talismans reflect a worldview where symbolism and practicality intersect. Ritual is often seasonal. Solstices, equinoxes, and key agricultural milestones mark communal celebrations, blending work with festivity. Music, song, and dance accompany offerings, creating shared memory and reinforcing social bonds. Children learn early to recognize these rhythms, internalizing both spiritual and practical lessons, the timing of planting, the signs of approaching winter, and the patterns of the natural world. Elders act as both spiritual guides and storytellers. Around fires, they recount tales of gods' deeds, heroic feats, and cautionary legends. These narratives are rich with moral and strategic lessons. Bravery, cunning, and loyalty are extolled, while hubris and dishonesty are cautioned against. Humour, too, features prominently. Trickster gods like Loki often provide comic relief, reminding listeners not to take life too rigidly. Daily work is informed by spirituality. A farmer may pause before sowing seeds, a hunter offers thanks before a hunt, a smith mutters a blessing before striking iron. These small gestures anchor villagers psychologically, offering reassurance amid the unpredictability of life. Even superstition has a role. Rituals can serve as a psychological buffer, helping people cope with uncertainty, danger, and scarcity. The night sky itself is a canvas for reflection. Stars are read not only for navigation, but as signs from the divine. The moon's phases mark time influencing planting, hunting, and communal rituals. Observing celestial patterns is both practical and spiritual, merging survival with cosmic awareness. Even humour permeates spiritual practice. Light-hearted mimicry of gods' antics, playful exaggeration of their powers, or joking about minor misfortunes helps maintain morale. Villagers understand that reverence need not preclude joy. Balance between seriousness and laughter is essential for mental and social health. By the end of evening, the village quiets, yet the spiritual dimension lingers. Offerings left near hearths, fires still glowing, and whispered prayers create an invisible network connecting humans, gods, and the natural world. Life here is a tapestry, physical labour, skill, and ingenuity interwoven with belief, ritual, and community, forming a rhythm that sustains both body and spirit. As villagers retire to their sleeping platforms, the lessons of the day echo in their minds: respect for nature, cooperation with neighbours, mastery of craft, and attentiveness to the divine. Spiritual practice is not separate from survival. It is embedded in every gesture, every decision, and every story shared across generations. As night deepens, attention turns to the village's social rituals, where storytelling and entertainment serve as both amusement and education. Around the central hearths, villagers gather, listening to tales that stretch from humorous anecdotes to epic sagas of gods, heroes, and ancestors. The oral tradition is central to Viking culture, ensuring that knowledge, morality, and collective memory are passed down through generations. Elders take center stage, their voices carrying the cadence of experience. They recount battles with dramatic gestures, describe cunning escapes with vivid imagery, and occasionally exaggerate events to entertain. Humour is a constant companion. A boastful hero may trip over his own sword, or a clever trickster outwits both gods and humans, eliciting laughter that echoes through the longhouse. These moments of levity reinforce lessons, making stories memorable while fostering social bonds. A quirky tidbit, some storytelling included audience participation, such as mimicking animal sounds, repeating refrains, or acting out minor parts. Children thrilled by this interactive element internalized narrative structure, memory techniques, and cultural values, all while having fun. The experience blends education, performance, and amusement seamlessly. Music often accompanies these gatherings. Simple instruments, lyres, flutes, drums, or even rattles provide rhythm, mood, and dramatic emphasis. Songs celebrate harvests, battles, or love, and occasionally the music itself becomes part of a story marking the passage of events or accentuating tension. Even the youngest villagers clap, tap feet, or hum along, participating in the culture and learning its rhythms. Food and drink accompany storytelling. Small portions of salted fish bread or cheese circulate, and ale is poured sparingly for adults. Sharing sustenance reinforces communal bonds. Laughter and conversation flow freely, creating a multi-sensory experience that merges pleasure, socialization, and learning. The hearth's glow highlights faces, gestures, and expressions, enhancing the drama and intimacy of the narratives. Social hierarchy subtly shapes interactions. Elders and skilled storytellers are respected, but humor and cleverness allow younger or lower status villagers to participate without fear of reprisal. Clever remarks, well-timed questions, or playful mimicry earn smiles and acknowledgement. Status is earned through wit, skill, and contribution, rather than mere birthright alone, fostering dynamic, engaging social life. Stories often encode practical lessons. A tale of a hero lost in the forest may include accurate descriptions of flora, fauna, and navigation techniques. A cunning trader's story may reveal negotiation strategies or warnings about deceit. Humour makes these lessons memorable. Exaggeration, playful ridicule, and irony capture attention while reinforcing cultural wisdom. By late evening, the longhouse is filled with warmth, light, and laughter. The villagers' faces reflect engagement, curiosity, and amusement. Through storytelling, song, and communal enjoyment, the culture is transmitted in a rich, interactive manner. Each story strengthens memory skills and social cohesion, preparing listeners for the practical and moral challenges of life outside the hearth. In the quiet moments between tales, children mimic learned gestures, retell snippets, or practice weaving small improvisations into their own narratives. The circle of transmission continues seamlessly, linking past, present, and future generations in a living, breathing culture. As night settles fully, the village takes on a serene, almost meditative quality. Shadows stretch across the longhouses, hearths glow softly, and the occasional bark of a dog or the distant call of an owl punctuates the quiet. The rhythm of life slows, offering a moment for reflection, rest, and subtle observation of nature's nocturnal patterns. Domestic chores conclude, pots are washed or left to soak, tools stored, and bedding arranged for warmth. Even in sleep, preparation is essential. The placement of mats, blankets, and simple wooden barriers ensures both comfort and safety. Children nestle close to parents or siblings, learning the intimate rituals of family cohesion and protection through observation and participation. Animals inside the longhouses settle as well. Cattle, sheep, and smaller livestock rest in their enclosures, their breathing blending with the creaking of wooden structures. The presence of animals adds warmth, both physical and emotional, reinforcing the interdependence between humans and their environment. The quiet companionship of these creatures is a subtle yet constant reminder of survival's delicate balance. A quirky detail, some villagers keep small charms or carved talismans under their bedding, intended to ward off nightmares or attract favourable dreams. The shapes and materials vary: tiny wooden figures, polished stones, or pieces of woven fabric, each carrying personal or familial significance. These items reflect the seamless integration of belief, practicality, and imagination in daily life. Nighttime also brings contemplation of the wider natural world. Stars shimmer above, casting faint light through open roof vents or gaps in walls. The moon's movement provides a sense of time influencing tasks, travel plans, and agricultural decisions. Wolves howl in distant forests and wind whispers through trees, carrying lessons in caution, observation, and respect. Villagers internalize these signals, instinctively blending intuition with learned experience. Socially, the quiet night reinforces bonds. Couples share whispered conversations, elders recount brief tales to children before sleep, and older siblings comfort younger ones. Humor persists even here, soft giggles over minor mishaps during the day, playful teasing and imaginative recounting of minor adventures ensure that bonds of family and community remain strong. The night is a continuation of life's rhythm, not a pause. For the youngest, sleep is both rest and rehearsal. Dreams are often informed by daytime activities weaving hunting, fishing, or storytelling. Even in slumber, children internalize skills, social norms, and cultural narratives. The integration of play, observation, and imagination ensures that learning is continuous, subtle, and enduring. By the pre-dawn hours, the village rests in collective quiet. Hearth embers glow faintly, animals breathe rhythmically, and the forest beyond murmurs with nocturnal life. Life here is a delicate balance work and leisure survival, and ritual, humor, and reverence all interwoven into an enduring, sustainable pattern. The lessons of the day persist, carried forward into dreams, reflection, and the promise of a new morning. In this quiet, the village exists as a single organism, where each act, be it tending fire, repairing tools, or watching stars, contributes to the continuity of culture survival and social harmony. Here you witness the culmination of daily rhythm life learning and legacy entwined beneath the northern sky. Morning arrives softly, painting the village in pale golden light. Mist curls above the fjord and drifts lazily across tilled fields, settling over longhouses like a gentle veil. Birds awaken first, their calls echoing through the quiet, and the villagers stir with the rhythm of the sun, ready to resume the cycle of survival, craft, and community. The first task is water collection. Villagers carry wooden buckets to nearby streams, ice-cold water sloshing as they move. Even in winter, water is indispensable for cooking, cleaning, and livestock care. Children follow, learning to gauge safe footing on slippery stones, to navigate shallow currents, and to fetch adequate supplies without spillage. Every routine chore is an opportunity for training, observation, and social interaction. Breakfast preparations commence near the hearths. Porridge, fresh bread, and salted fish are arranged in simple bowls shared among family members and sometimes neighbouring households. The aroma draws people together, sparking conversation, laughter, and playful teasing. A child accidentally knocks over a bowl, prompting a mixture of scolding and giggles, reminding all that humour and patience are essential in daily life. A quirky detail, Vikings occasionally added dried berries or honey to porridge, introducing variety to an otherwise repetitive diet. Such minor innovations highlight creativity within constraints, turning sustenance into subtle pleasure. Even these small acts contribute to cultural continuity, demonstrating how experimentation and practicality coexisted. After breakfast, attention turns to livestock. Cattle, goats, sheep, and pigs are guided to pastures or small enclosures, ensuring their health and feeding schedules are maintained. Milking and care require skill, observation, and strength. Young villagers assist learning early the value of routine, gentle handling, and animal behavior. Knowledge is experiential, gained through repetition and observation under elder supervision. The morning also includes maintenance of tools and structures. Axes are sharpened, ploughs inspected, and fences repaired. Longhouses, workshops, and storage areas receive routine attention. These activities reflect foresight. Minor repairs prevent disaster, ensuring continuity of labour, safety, and efficiency. Tasks are approached with both seriousness and levity, as villagers often joke, share stories, and tease one another while working. Community interaction is central. Neighbours consult about crops, livestock, or upcoming communal events. Children exchange playful challenges, mimicking adult tasks with sticks, miniature tools, or mock nets. Social bonds are constantly reinforced, blending labour, education, and entertainment. Even disagreements over resources, techniques, or household responsibilities are moderated with humour and shared understanding, teaching conflict resolution in practical terms. By mid-morning, the village hums with coordinated activity. Hearths smoke, animals move deliberately, fields are tended, and workshops echo with sound. The atmosphere is both disciplined and lively, a testament to a society finely tuned to the challenges of its environment. Through this rhythm, survival culture and social cohesion are maintained. The day's lessons begin anew: observation, adaptability, collaboration, and humour. Vikings understand that life's continuity depends not only on skill and labour, but also on the quality of relationships, the transmission of knowledge, and the integration of ritual storytelling and play. Each morning offers reinforcement preparation and subtle refinement of these intertwined elements, ensuring that the village thrives physically, socially, and culturally. By late morning, the village shifts focus to craft and repair, an ongoing dance of creation and maintenance that defines daily life. Villagers move purposefully between workshops, longhouses, and open-air workspaces, balancing the demands of survival with the expression of skill and artistry. Each task, whether minor or monumental, reflects the intimate knowledge and resourcefulness necessary to thrive in this northern environment. The blacksmith's forge is particularly vibrant. Sparks leap from glowing iron as the smith hammers rhythmically shaping blades, nails, and tools. The clang of metal resonates through the village, a sound both functional and symbolic of human ingenuity. Apprentices stand nearby, observing, occasionally imitating, and sometimes fumbling their errors, met with gentle correction and humour. Every hammer strike carries both practical outcome and a lesson in precision, patience, and discipline. Woodworking complements metalwork. Carpenters fashion planks, beams, and small objects with careful attention to grain and integrity. Saws bite into timber chisels, carve fine details, and shavings litter the workshop floor. Even small errors, misaligned joints, uneven cuts become teaching moments, encouraging problem-solving and adaptation. Humour softens the frustration. A splintered piece may be teased as Thor's revenge before being corrected and reused. A quirky detail: Vikings often used fish oil to treat wooden tools and shields, enhancing durability and imparting a subtle scent. This simple technique demonstrates practical chemistry and resourcefulness, as well as a willingness to observe and experiment with available materials. Children watching learn not just mechanics, but also a philosophy of sustainable, thoughtful craftsmanship. Textile production continues alongside heavy craft. Women and girls spin, weave, and dye cloth, producing clothing sacks and decorative items. Patterns sometimes convey identity, familial lineage, or local symbolism, turning ordinary textiles into cultural artifacts. The combination of function and aesthetics reflects a worldview where survival need not preclude beauty or expression. Community collaboration is constant. A carpenter may advise a weaver on stretching frames, while a blacksmith offers metal fittings for a wooden project. Conversation flows easily, punctuated by laughter and minor jokes. These interactions reinforce social bonds, knowledge sharing, and mutual respect. In this society, skill is both practical and social currency, connecting labour with learning and camaraderie. Food preparation continues in parallel. Hearths provide warmth and sustenance for workers. Stews simmer, bread bakes, and children bring small snacks to keep energy levels high. The smell of cooking intertwines with smoke from the forge and sawdust from the workshops, creating a sensory landscape that is both comforting and stimulating. Work nourishment and sociality exist in harmony. By late morning, the village is a hub of coordinated activity. Tools are repaired, new objects crafted, and lessons absorbed through observation and participation. Humour, ritual, and practical ingenuity intertwine seamlessly, creating a rich, layered environment. Here, survival depends not solely on strength, but on skill, collaboration, adaptability, and the subtle transmission of cultural knowledge across generations. As the sun climbs higher, the village's rhythm continues, ensuring that every object, every skill, and every interaction contributes to the stability and flourishing of the community. Craft is not merely work, it is education, tradition, and celebration of human ingenuity. As the sun reaches its zenith, attention shifts to food preservation and preparation for the coming days. This work is both laborious and strategic, reflecting a deep understanding of seasonal cycles, resources, and household needs. Every action, salting fish, drying meat, storing grains, is calculated to maximize survival and minimize waste, blending skill, observation, and foresight. Villagers gather in small groups to process the day's harvest and catch. Fish are gutted, cleaned, and arranged in wooden trays for smoking or drying, while meat from hunted game is carefully cut into strips and salted. Grains are sifted, winnowed, and stored in woven baskets, sometimes elevated to prevent rodents or moisture damage. Each step requires precision and patience. Even minor errors could result in spoilage, hunger, or disease. Children assist under supervision learning techniques through observation and hands-on practice. They stir brines, arrange strips of meat on racks, or help carry small baskets. Mistakes are inevitable, salt spilled here, a fish dropped there, but these errors are integral to the learning process. Humour lightens labour. A child might mimic a fish, flopping dramatically, eliciting laughter from adults, while reinforcing memory of proper handling. A quirky detail, Vikings occasionally rubbed fish with juniper branches before smoking, imparting a subtle aroma and flavour while acting as a natural preservative. Such practices reveal a nuanced understanding of local flora and its applications, blending practicality with creativity. Even small innovations reflect ingenuity born of necessity and experimentation. Grain storage is an exercise in foresight. Baskets and sacks are labelled or marked with simple symbols to indicate contents, harvest date, or intended use. Elevated racks or lofts keep food dry and safe, reducing spoilage and minimising theft or contamination. The placement of these items demonstrates an awareness of environmental factors and an emphasis on long-term planning. Preservation is often communal. Households exchange surplus or lend tools, fostering interdependence and social cohesion. A neighbour might provide extra salt or offer advice on drying techniques, reinforcing bonds while ensuring mutual survival. Collaboration is not only practical but culturally reinforced, embedding social norms into essential daily work. Evening meals are carefully planned around these preparations. Stews, breads, and preserved foods combine to create balanced nutrition, offering warmth, energy, and comfort. Sharing food reinforces communal bonds and provides an opportunity for storytelling, humour, and informal teaching. The interplay of labour, sustenance, and culture exemplifies the holistic nature of village life. By midday, the rhythm of work and learning is clear. Meticulous labour is balanced with humour, observation, and social interaction. Preservation activities highlight both survival instincts and the subtle artistry embedded in practical tasks. Each carefully prepared item carries the imprint of skill, ingenuity, and community cooperation, ensuring that the village thrives not only today, but for months to come. In this way, Vikings weave together survival culture and education, demonstrating that even the simplest actions, salting fish, drying meat, storing grains, are laden with meaning, skill, and social significance. Life is a careful balance of observation, foresight, and collaboration, where each small act contributes to the enduring vitality of the community. As afternoon approaches, attention turns to the preparation and maintenance of Viking clothing, a task that is both practical and culturally expressive. Textiles are essential for warmth, protection, and identity, and their creation demands patient skill and an intimate understanding of materials. Wool, flax, and animal hides dominate, each chosen for function, availability, and durability. Weaving is central. Villagers, often women and apprentices, set up looms and work diligently, turning spun fibres into fabric for tunics, cloaks, and bedding. Patterns are mostly functional, yet subtle embellishments, simple geometric designs, small embroidered motifs or colour variations convey familial, regional, or symbolic identity. Each item is the result of careful measurement, repetition, and coordination, producing textiles that are as much art as they are necessity. Spinning thread is equally essential. Fibres are twisted on spindles or wheels, producing yarn of varying thickness. Skill lies in maintaining even tension and understanding how the yarn will behave when woven. Young learners practice under supervision, learning to correct uneven twists or knots, occasionally fumbling and eliciting laughter from onlookers. Humour softens instruction, making errors memorable without discouragement. A quirky detail, Vikings sometimes incorporated small feathers or dyed strands into fabrics for special occasions, adding playful visual interest. These embellishments highlight creativity within constraints and reveal an understanding of both aesthetics and resourcefulness. Even practical clothing could carry personal or cultural expression. Leatherworking complements textile production. Hides are tanned using moss bark or smoke, transformed into footwear, belts, and protective coverings. Villagers carefully cut, stitch, and shape each piece, ensuring both fit and durability. Tools, needles, awls, and knives are maintained meticulously, and minor mistakes are corrected with ingenuity, such as patching worn areas or reinforcing weak seams. Maintenance is ongoing. Clothing is repaired, washed, and occasionally mended with decorative stitching. Older garments may be repurposed into smaller items demonstrating sustainability and resourcefulness. Every stitch, fold, and repair reflects both practical skill and respect for material scarcity. Community interaction enhances textile work. Villagers exchange techniques, offer advice, or collaborate on larger projects like sails or ceremonial garments. Humour and storytelling often accompany labour, ensuring that social cohesion remains strong even in the midst of meticulous work. Children learn by mimicking and participating, internalising both craft and cultural norms. By late afternoon, the village is awash in the muted colours and textures of wool, flax, and leather. The air carries the faint scent of smoke oils and damp fibres, while rhythmic movements create a sense of continuity and purpose. Clothing is more than protection. It embodies skill, creativity, cultural knowledge, and communal effort. Through these textile and leather practices, the Vikings sustained themselves materially while expressing identity and maintaining social bonds. Every piece produced or repaired carries lessons in patience, resourcefulness, and cultural continuity, weaving together survival artistry and tradition in a seamless practical tapestry. As afternoon stretches toward evening, the focus shifts to the village's defense, and martial training an essential aspect of survival in a world of unpredictable threats. Even during peacetime, vigilance is constant, and young and old alike participate in learning the skills necessary to protect the community livestock and resources. Weapon maintenance is a primary task. Axes, spears, knives, and shields are inspected, sharpened, and repaired with meticulous care. Blades are filed, hafts reinforced, and leather straps checked for wear. Every item carries the mark of careful craftsmanship, blending practicality with aesthetic detail. A well-maintained weapon is a matter of pride as well as safety, reflecting both individual skill and collective preparedness. Training is both structured and playful. Boys and adolescents practice with wooden swords or blunt weapons, learning footwork balance and striking techniques under the watchful eyes of experienced warriors. Girls may engage in archery or defensive drills, emphasizing agility, observation, and coordination. Mistakes are met with gentle correction and humour. A clumsy parry or missed target might earn playful ribbing, reinforcing lessons while maintaining morale. A quirky tidbit, Viking youth sometimes staged mock battles using hay bales or small animal skulls as opponents, blending imaginative play with practical skill building. These exercises teach strategy, improvisation, and teamwork, while keeping learning engaging and culturally relevant. Observation is a key component. Elders demonstrate subtle signs of ambush animal tracks or environmental changes, teaching apprentices to read the landscape with both eyes and intuition. Awareness of weather patterns, terrain, and natural cover is integrated into every drill, ensuring that combat skills are inseparable from survival instincts. Community defense is a shared responsibility. Watch posts along village perimeters, often simple platforms or cleared areas near forests or water, provide early warning of approaching strangers or predators. Villagers rotate duties, maintaining vigilance while balancing other essential tasks. This system reflects the understanding that survival depends not solely on individual skill, but on coordinated effort. Humour and storytelling remain integral. Tales of past skirmishes, exaggerated feats, or cunning strategies enliven training sessions, embedding lessons in memory while entertaining participants. Children mimic legendary warriors or gods, learning both technique and narrative simultaneously. The blending of myth, humour, and practical skill reinforces cultural identity and social cohesion. By evening, the village demonstrates readiness without panic. Weapons are prepared, positions understood, and skills reinforced. Training is not merely physical, it is a living classroom for observation, critical thinking, coordination, and cultural continuity. The integration of humour, ritual, and narrative ensures that lessons resonate, making the martial arts a cornerstone of daily life, rather than a distant abstraction. Through these routines, villagers cultivate resilience, competence, and confidence. Defense is not only about survival, but also about fostering trust, unity, and intergenerational learning, ensuring that the community remains secure, skilled, and culturally vibrant. As evening approaches, attention turns to trade and interaction beyond the village, an activity that reinforces both survival and social networks. While the village can sustain itself to an extent, commerce provides access to rare materials, surplus exchange, and information about distant lands. Merchants, skilled negotiators, and occasional travellers play pivotal roles in maintaining economic and cultural vitality. Trading begins with preparation. Goods, textiles, preserved fish, crafted tools, and other surplus items are inspected and sorted. Villagers assess quality and quantity, ensuring that what they offer reflects skill and value. Even minor imperfections may be repaired or repurposed, reflecting a pragmatic balance between utility and presentation. Children observe and participate in small tasks, learning the principles of fairness assessment and value. Travellers or traders from neighbouring communities arrive with diverse goods, salt metals, luxury items, or even rare herbs. Negotiation is a blend of verbal skill, body language, and reputation. Elders or experienced merchants lead discussions while young apprentices observe the subtleties of persuasion, concession, and leverage. Humour often punctuates these exchanges. Mock boasts, playful exaggerations, or feigned stubbornness lighten tension and maintain goodwill. A quirky tidbit: Vikings sometimes used carved tokens or tally sticks to mark transactions, or promises of trade, a primitive but effective system of accounting. These artifacts reveal ingenuity, organisation, and the blending of practicality with social trust. Children learning this system internalize concepts of accountability and record-keeping through playful repetition and observation. Goods are often bartered rather than sold, with coin emphasizing reciprocity and mutual benefit. A handful of salted fish may secure a bundle of fine wool, while crafted tools exchange for metal ingots. This system reinforces social bonds as much as it provides material gain, ensuring interdependence across communities. Trade also serves as a conduit for knowledge. News of distant settlements, seasonal changes, or political developments spreads alongside goods. Stories, songs, and techniques accompany material exchange, creating a continuous cultural dialogue. Even humour and anecdote are commodities. Relayed jokes or clever tales teach, entertain, and forge connections. Children frequently observe these interactions with fascination, asking questions, mimicking gestures, or attempting small trades themselves. These exercises teach negotiation, assessment, and social intelligence, preparing the next generation for both economic and interpersonal challenges. By nightfall, visitors depart or settle temporarily, leaving the village with enhanced resources and enriched cultural insight. Trade has reinforced survival, cooperation, and knowledge transfer, illustrating that the Vikings' worldview encompasses far more than immediate needs. Commerce is an extension of community skill and ingenuity, reinforcing identity, resilience, and adaptability. Through this continuous engagement with outsiders, the village maintains vitality, learns from the wider world, and strengthens networks that ensure both survival and prosperity in an uncertain landscape. Humour, observation, and skill remain central to this process, weaving social, economic, and cultural threads into the fabric of daily life. As twilight deepens, villagers turn their attention to the maintenance and repair of boats, essential instruments of travel, fishing, and trade. Watercraft are lifelines for survival, connecting the settlement to distant resources, neighbouring communities, and opportunities for adventure. Every plank, rope, and sail carries significance, requiring skillful attention and understanding of material properties. The boatyard is a hive of focused activity. Carpenters inspect hulls, patching cracks with tar moss or carefully shaped planks. Ropes are coiled, checked for fraying, and replaced when necessary. Sails woven from flax or wool are mended and reinforced. Tools clatter rhythmically, hammers echo against timber, and the smell of pitch and wood fills the air. Each action is precise, combining craftsmanship with foresight to ensure seaworthiness. Apprentices learn through observation and guided participation. Young villagers measure angles, adjust planks, or lash ropes, guided by experienced craftsmen who emphasize patience, accuracy, and respect for materials. Mistakes are inevitable, yet humour softens errors. A plank too short might inspire laughter, and a nickname, while a tangled rope sparks playful exclamations. Such levity teaches resilience and memory alongside technical skill. A quirky detail: Vikings sometimes tested the integrity of new boats by filling them with water and observing for leaks overnight, using floating twigs or feathers as indicators. This method, simple yet effective, reflects an empirical approach to problem-solving and adaptation to natural elements. Children observing these tests absorb lessons in observation, experimentation, and patience. Watercraft are not solely functional. Aesthetics matter. Curved prows may feature carvings of serpents, dragons, or other symbols intended to invoke protection, prestige or spiritual significance. These decorations reveal a worldview that blends practicality with symbolism, demonstrating how artistry, identity, and utility coexist seamlessly. Community participation is evident. Teams coordinate to move boats from storage to water, align them for launch, or assist in minor repairs. Communication is constant, blending commands, advice, and humour to ensure safety and efficiency. Cooperation reinforces bonds, distributes knowledge, and ensures that critical tasks are completed without undue stress. Evening light casts reflections across the water, highlighting the symmetry of hulls, the sheen of freshly tarred wood, and the gentle sway of moored boats. Children practice small launches in shallow waters, testing steering and balance under supervision. These exercises teach risk assessment, dexterity, and confidence-linking play to practical skill. By nightfall, boats are secured, repaired, and ready for future use. The village has not only maintained essential infrastructure, but has reinforced intergenerational knowledge, social cohesion, and cultural values. Through these labours, survival ingenuity and artistry are interwoven, ensuring that the community remains prepared, resilient, and culturally vibrant. As night falls, attention shifts to the role of storytelling and music in the longhouse, a vital element of Viking life that intertwines entertainment, education, and cultural preservation. The flickering hearthlight casts shadows on walls, adorned with carvings, creating an intimate atmosphere where tales come alive and imagination bridges generations. Villagers gather around the central fire, children seated close to elders, while adults find spaces on benches or mats. The storyteller begins with a dramatic flourish voice, rising and falling to convey suspense, humour, or awe. Each tale is a blend of history, mythology, and personal anecdote designed to teach lessons about courage, cunning, morality, and social norms. The line between fact and legend is fluid, enhancing engagement and memorability. Music accompanies narratives, adding rhythm, mood, and emphasis. Lyres, flutes, and drums punctuate key moments, while occasional singing creates melodic interludes. Even young children join in clapping or humming, participating actively in cultural transmission. This immersive sensory experience reinforces memory, attention, and emotional resonance, ensuring that lessons are absorbed deeply and retained. A quirky tidbit. Vikings sometimes use small animal bones or shells as percussion instruments during storytelling sessions, creating whimsical sounds to accompany jokes, mimic creatures, or punctuate dramatic moments. These playful additions enhance engagement, while highlighting ingenuity in using available resources. Humour is pervasive. Trickster gods like low-key comedic mishaps of ancestors and playful exaggerations invite laughter, while subtle teasing within the audience strengthens social bonds. Humour serves dual purposes, entertainment and pedagogy, making complex lessons easier to grasp and recall. Children internalize narrative structure, moral reasoning, and cultural norms through repeated exposure to stories that combine mirth with instruction. Storytelling also functions as social glue. Shared narratives create communal identity, passing knowledge about migration routes, seasonal changes, and survival strategies. Through these tales, listeners learn observational skills, recognizing animal tracks, reading weather signs, and interpreting social cues, all woven seamlessly into engaging plot lines. Even after the main tales conclude, the storytelling continues in smaller informal exchanges. Whispers of unfinished anecdotes, jokes retold, or improvised mini-dramas fill corners of the longhouse. Children imitate gestures, invent variations, and rehearse dialogue, internalizing performance memory and cultural values simultaneously. By the late hours, storytelling and music leave an indelible imprint on the village's cultural landscape. Lessons, morals, and practical knowledge are passed alongside entertainment, reinforcing survival skills, social cohesion, and identity. In this way, the longhouse functions as both school and theatre, where each participant contributes to the living narrative that sustains the community across generations. As night deepens, attention turns to the village's spiritual observances, subtle rituals woven into daily life that reinforce beliefs, community cohesion, and moral guidance. These practices are intimate, often occurring near hearths, outdoor shrines, or modest altars, blending seamlessly with routine's labour and leisure. Villagers offer small tokens, grain milk, or carved figurines to gods such as Odin, Thor, or Freya, accompanied by whispered prayers or silent reflection. These acts are neither grandiose nor ostentatious. Their power lies in intention and consistency. Spirituality informs decision-making from agricultural timing, to hunting strategies, creating a framework that links human effort with natural and supernatural forces. A quirky detail, some households kept tiny carved horses as talismans of fertility and prosperity. These small, almost whimsical figures reflect a belief system that combines symbolism, psychology, and practicality, revealing how Vikings integrated spirituality into everyday objects. Children observe and participate, internalizing cultural norms and learning to respect the unseen forces shaping their world. Seasonal cycles govern communal rituals. Solstices, equinoxes, and key agricultural milestones prompt gatherings, music, dance, and offerings. Elders lead ceremonies recounting ancestral tales and mythic exploits, emphasizing bravery, cleverness, and the consequences of hubris. Humor persists even in ritual trickster gods' antics, playful mimicry, and exaggerated stories ensure engagement while reinforcing moral and practical lessons. Practical actions accompany spiritual practice. Farmers pause before sowing, hunters mutter thanks before the chase, and smiths bless their tools before striking. Even superstitions serve survival purposes, acting as psychological buffers in a world of uncertainty, scarcity, and environmental hazards. Ritual, therefore, is both spiritual and pragmatic. Nighttime also encourages reflection on the cosmos. Stars guide navigation and signify seasonal shifts, while the moon's phases influence planting, hunting, and ritual timing. Observing celestial patterns blends utility with wonder, teaching both practical skills and spiritual humility. Humor and light-heartedness permeate spiritual engagement. Jokes about minor misfortunes, playful storytelling about gods, or mock reenactments create emotional resilience and foster social harmony. Reverence coexists with joy, ensuring that ritual strengthens the village without stifling human connection. By the end of these observances, the village exudes a sense of cohesion, continuity, and readiness. Spiritual life is not separate from survival. It informs it, enriches it, and sustains it. Through ritual storytelling and quiet reflection, villagers nurture both body and spirit, passing wisdom and culture to the next generation, while preparing for the uncertainties of life in a harsh northern landscape. As the night deepens further, the village enters a period of quiet reflection and informal education, where observation, imitation, and storytelling continue in subtle, often unnoticed ways. Children and adolescents gather in small clusters, practicing skills learned during the day, mimicking adults, or inventing playful improvisations that reinforce memory, dexterity, and social understanding. These informal sessions are rich with layered learning. A child may practice tying knots on ropes, weaving small mats, or fashioning miniature tools guided by older siblings or observing adults. Mistakes elicit gentle correction or humorous commentary, creating an atmosphere where learning is playful yet rigorous. Every error and success becomes a lesson in precision problem-solving and resilience. A quirky tidbit: children sometimes use small animal bones or shells as play tools or percussion instruments during practice, echoing techniques seen in adult craft or ritual. These improvisations encourage creativity and resourcefulness, reinforcing the notion that learning can be both practical and imaginative. Observation is central. Even without explicit instruction, children internalize social norms, spatial awareness, and environmental cues. Watching elders move through tasks, tending fires, handling livestock, or crafting tools, they absorb subtle cues about timing, coordination, and efficiency. These skills, though seemingly mundane, form the foundation of effective adulthood and community participation. Storytelling continues in hushed tones. Miniature narratives, often inspired by grander sagas, are rehearsed, retold, or adapted. Humor remains pervasive. Exaggeration, playful mimicry, and light-hearted teasing keep attention focused and lessons memorable. Moral lessons, survival strategies, and cultural knowledge are embedded, naturally illustrating how informal education merges amusement with utility. Social hierarchy is observed and reinforced through these interactions. Respect for elders, cooperation among peers, and acknowledgement of skill or cleverness structure relationships. Humor allows for temporary role reversals. Children may parody elders or dramatize mythical figures, but social cohesion remains intact, teaching balance between creativity, respect, and social norms. By the late hours, the village settles into a rhythm of introspection and consolidation. Skill stories and lessons are internalized quietly, preparing the next generation for the demands of survival labor and cultural participation. The night becomes a classroom laboratory, and theatre blending imagination, observation, and practical engagement seamlessly. Even in rest, learning persists. Dreams often replay daily activities, rehearsing, hunting, weaving, or negotiation scenarios. Imagination, reflection, and experience converge, ensuring that knowledge is retained refined and ready for application in the coming days. Life in the village is thus a continuous cycle of learning practice and cultural reinforcement, where every action, playful or serious, contributes to resilience and continuity. As the night deepens into the early hours, attention naturally turns toward personal reflection and quiet contemplation moments when individuals consider the events of the day, lessons learned, and plans for the future. The longhouses are mostly dark except for the occasional flicker of embers or candlelight casting soft glows on faces, walls, and belongings, creating a serene atmosphere conducive to introspection. Villagers engage in private rituals, small gestures that are both practical and symbolic. A mother might smooth bedding, ensuring warmth and comfort for her children, while simultaneously whispering protective charms or silent prayers. A young apprentice reviews mental notes of tools repaired or knots tied during the day, mentally rehearsing corrections and improvements. These small acts reinforce personal responsibility, foresight and mindfulness, critical skills in a world of limited resources and environmental unpredictability. A quirky detail, some villagers kept miniature memory stones or small carvings under pillows to remind themselves of important tasks or lessons, a primitive mnemonic device combining practicality and belief. Children often imitate this practice playfully, yet the method subtly reinforces observation memory and cultural norms, blending learning with ritual. Animals are settled for the night, their rhythmic breathing forming a backdrop to human reflection. Cattle, goats, and dogs provide warmth, security, and companionship, while their care ensures that vital food labour and emotional bonds persist. Observing animal behaviour even passively teaches patience, attentiveness, and empathy, connecting survival skills with emotional intelligence. Storytelling continues in quiet, intimate circles. Elders recount smaller anecdotes, moral parables, or humorous observations from daily life, eliciting whispers of laughter and occasional gasps of surprise. These mini-narratives reinforce communal values, ethical considerations, and practical wisdom, embedding cultural knowledge seamlessly into the rhythm of life. Humour remains central, playful exaggeration, clever wordplay, and imitation create enjoyment while reinforcing memory. Even in solitude, villagers internalize environmental cues. The sound of wind shifting embers or distant wildlife provides information about weather seasons and potential hazards. This constant, subtle observation hones skills in anticipation, adaptation, and situational awareness, qualities vital for survival in harsh northern landscapes. By early morning, the village rests yet remains alive with subtle activity. Dreams, reflection, and quiet rehearsal merge to consolidate learning, build resilience, and foster preparation for the day ahead. Each individual, through reflection and mindful observation, contributes to the enduring vitality of the community, ensuring that both cultural knowledge and practical skills are preserved and transmitted. Night in this sense is both restorative and instructive. The calm, the darkness, and the quiet rhythm of life provide an opportunity for consolidation, rehearsal, and internalization of lessons. Sleep is not mere rest, it is an extension of education, creativity, and cultural continuity, preparing every villager to face the challenges and opportunities of tomorrow. As dawn approaches, the longhouse begins to stir, and with it comes the quiet rituals of morning preparation. The embers in the hearth are coaxed back to life with careful breaths, and handfuls of kindling filling the room with a soft glow and the comforting crackle of fire. The smell of smoke and warm wood signals the start of another day, blending survival with routine. Villagers rise slowly, stretching stiff muscles and shaking off the remnants of dreams. Bedding of wool, furs, and straw is tidied or shaken out not only for comfort, but also to ward off pests. Children stumble sleepily to their chores, some carrying buckets of water, others feeding animals that already stir with impatience. Every action is part of a well-worn cycle, efficient and familiar, yet imbued with meaning. A quirky tidbit, some Viking households are thought to have kept tiny bells or charms near sleeping areas rung gently in the morning to drive away night spirits and signal a fresh start. Whether rooted in superstition or simple habit, the act provided both reassurance and rhythm to daily life. Breakfast is modest but nourishing, leftover porridge bread, dried fish or cheese. Food is shared communally, reinforcing bonds of family and community. Conversations are quiet, at first punctuated by yawns or light jokes about snoring restless dreams or mislaid tools. Humour eases the transition from rest to labour, reinforcing cohesion while softening the hardships of early rising. Preparation extends beyond the home. Tools are checked, sharpened and readied. Clothing is repaired or adjusted for the day's labour. Boats or carts are inspected for use. Children observe and assist, learning the importance of readiness and foresight. Even minor rituals such as testing rope tension or examining weather signs impart valuable lessons in vigilance and preparation. Morning also provides an opportunity for reflection and planning. Farmers consider fields, fishermen watch the river, and hunters assess animal tracks left overnight. These observations dictate priorities, balancing immediate needs with long-term survival. Quiet discussions among adults ensure coordination and efficient allocation of labour, weaving social intelligence into the day's rhythm. By the time the sun crests the horizon, the village hums with subdued but purposeful activity. The transition from sleep to labour is complete, underscoring the resilience, discipline and adaptability of the community. Morning rituals may seem ordinary, but they provide the foundation for survival, continuity and cultural identity. The new day begins as a continuation of cycles: rest to labour, darkness to light, preparation to action, woven together with humour, reflection and cooperation. In this way, the village remains strong, united and ready for the unpredictable challenges of their northern world. By mid-morning, the village is fully immersed in its cyclical rhythm of labour, observation and skill building. Activities shift from preparation to active engagement. Fields must be tended, livestock moved or milked, tools repaired, and craft projects advanced. Each task reinforces lessons learned previously, merging routine with subtle instruction for the young and reinforcement for the experienced. Farmers walk the fields with practiced eyes, assessing soil, moisture, plant growth and pest activity. Adjustments are made carefully: irrigation, reinforcement of furrows, or minor repairs to ploughs. Even the smallest action, removing a rock, pruning a branch, or marking a row, carries long-term implications for yield and community sustenance. Children follow, imitating movements, counting rows, or identifying plant types, internalizing agricultural knowledge through repetition and observation. A quirky detail: some Vikings reportedly used animal behaviour such as the direction of grazing patterns or the restlessness of livestock to predict weather shifts. Such observations reflect a keen awareness of the environment, blending empirical observation with survival strategy. Children learn to read these subtle signs, practicing attention and inference in practical contexts. Craft continues alongside agriculture. Blacksmiths shape metal, carpenters measure timber, and weavers spin or repair cloth. Workshops buzz with conversation, laughter and instruction. Even the smallest errors, a misaligned nail, uneven weave, or slightly warped plank, become teaching moments. Humour accompanies correction. A child or apprentice might receive a playful nickname based on the mishap, reinforcing lessons while maintaining morale. Community interaction remains constant. Villagers exchange tips, assist neighbours, or coordinate shared tasks. Collaboration ensures efficiency, distributes workload, and strengthens social bonds. Stories are shared, often reflecting recent events or ancestral tales, embedding cultural knowledge seamlessly into practical labour. Learning is both explicit and observational, practical and social. By late morning, meals are prepared or consumed, usually in tandem with ongoing tasks. Simple porridge, bread or fish is consumed quickly, but mindfully sustaining energy for labour, while reinforcing communal interaction. Even mundane meals carry implicit lessons about cooperation, pacing and respect for resources. Through these activities, the village demonstrates a finely tuned integration of labour learning and social cohesion. Every movement, conversation and observation strengthens both individual skill and collective resilience. Survival is inseparable from social and cultural engagement. Each task reinforces identity, competence and community vitality. By noon, the village is a living system of interdependent actions, agriculture, craft, observation and education coalescing into a harmonious rhythm. Life continues seamlessly, embodying the intricate balance between human ingenuity, environmental awareness, and social connection that defines the Viking way of life. As midday passes, the village focuses on hunting, foraging, and gathering resources beyond cultivated fields, a crucial supplement to their diet, and an opportunity to teach practical survival skills. Groups of adults, sometimes accompanied by adolescents, venture into nearby forests, riversides, and hills, moving with a blend of caution, observation, and efficiency. Tracks broken branches and droppings are carefully interpreted, each sign a clue to the presence of game or hazards. Lessons are imparted naturally. Elders point out subtle indicators of animal behavior, demonstrating how to anticipate movement, estimate distance, and approach silently. Children observe keenly, learning patience, timing, and respect for the environment. Humor lightens tense moments. A sudden rustle or misstep might elicit playful exclamations, reinforcing caution while maintaining morale. A quirky detail, Vikings sometimes carried small charms or painted symbols on arrows, believing these imbued luck or guidance from gods during hunts. Even if partially symbolic, the practice provided psychological reassurance and a sense of control in uncertain circumstances, reflecting the interplay of superstition, ritual, and practical skill. Foraging supplements, hunting, ensuring access to edible plants, herbs, berries, and fungi. Villagers recognize seasonal availability, soil types, and plant morphology, passing knowledge orally and through demonstration. Children are encouraged to taste test safe items, memorize locations, and identify distinguishing features, blending sensory experience with practical instruction. Mistakes are corrected gently, sometimes with playful exaggeration. Don't eat that or the forest trolls will chase you, making lessons memorable. Hunting also emphasizes teamwork. Coordinating approaches, sharing observations, and distributing spoils reinforces social cohesion and mutual dependence. Children learn to respect hierarchy while practicing autonomy, balancing individual skill with group strategy. Lessons in empathy and ethics arise naturally, decisions about which prey to pursue, how to minimize suffering, and how to share resources foster moral as well as practical intelligence. By late afternoon, hunters and foragers return with game, herbs, and berries, ready to be prepared, preserved, or incorporated into communal meals. The day's labor reinforces a cycle of observation, interpretation, and action linking physical skill, environmental literacy, and cultural knowledge. Through hunting and foraging, villagers sustain themselves materially while instilling critical survival skills in younger generations. Humor, ritual observation, and shared experience ensure that these essential practices are both educational and socially cohesive, forming a vital part of the community's daily rhythm and intergenerational continuity. As late afternoon fades into early evening, the village focuses on food preparation, preservation, and communal meals, a time when labor, skill, and social cohesion converge. The day's harvest, fish, meat, grains, and foraged items is transformed into sustenance, blending practicality, creativity, and cultural tradition. Cooking takes place over hearth fires or outdoor pits where smoke, heat, and aroma fill the air. Fish are cleaned, salted, or smoked. Meat is roasted, boiled, or dried. Grains are ground into flour for bread or porridge. Elders supervise while children assist, learning techniques for chopping, seasoning, and monitoring cooking temperatures. Mistakes are corrected with humor. A scorched piece of fish might earn a teasing remark, embedding the lesson in memory without discouragement. A quirky tidbit. Vikings sometimes used herbs or moss not only for flavor, but also as natural preservatives, a clever fusion of observation, experimentation, and culinary ingenuity. Children watching these processes absorb knowledge about local flora, chemistry, and practical problem-solving, all through hands-on experience. Meals are communal, reinforcing social bonds and hierarchy. Food is shared according to custom and need, reflecting both practicality and social structure. Stories, songs, and jokes accompany consumption, making each meal an opportunity for entertainment, teaching, and cultural reinforcement. Humor is as essential as nutrition. Playful exaggerations, mimicry, and light-hearted anecdotes enliven conversation, strengthening memory and engagement. Preservation begins immediately. Leftovers are dried, salted, or stored in lofts and barrels, ensuring food supply for lean periods. Techniques are precise, requiring attention to moisture, temperature, and storage methods. Children observe, participate, and practice, internalizing strategies for long-term survival. This blend of labor instruction and cultural transmission ensures that skills are passed down reliably. Evening chores complement meal preparation. Tools are cleaned, fires are managed, and animals are tended. Coordination is key, each member knows their role, and assistance is offered when necessary. Observation, subtle correction, and gentle encouragement create an environment of shared responsibility, reinforcing both practical and social education. By nightfall, the village has transformed raw resources into nourishment stories and shared experience. The cycle of observation, labour, humour and teaching is complete for the day, embedding essential knowledge, cultural values and communal bonds in both adults and children. Through these daily routines, Vikings ensure that survival, skill and identity are inseparable, woven into the fabric of ordinary life with precision, creativity and care. As night deepens, the village settles into quiet routines, signalling the end of one cycle and preparation for the next. Fires burn low, casting dancing shadows on walls and beams, while the soft murmur of conversation fades to gentle whispers. The air is filled with the comforting aroma of smoke, lingering food and well-worn furs, creating an atmosphere of calm reflection and shared continuity. Children drift to sleep, some exhausted from labour, others from the thrill of play or the excitement of learning. Elders move quietly, checking fires, securing doors and ensuring animals are safely contained. Every action reflects foresight and care, a subtle choreography of preparation that safeguards both lives and resources. Humour and small jokes linger in hushed tones, a last chuckle about a playful mishap, a teasing remark about a misadventure reminding everyone that, even in routine, human connection persists. A quirky detail, some Vikings left small tokens, charms or carved figures near their sleeping areas, either as protective talismans or mnemonic devices. These items reflect a blend of belief, superstition, and practical habit, linking spiritual life with daily routines. Children often handle these with fascination, internalizing both cultural norms and imaginative engagement. Observation continues even in near silence. The faint sounds of wind, creaking timber, or distant animals provide subtle cues about weather, environmental shifts, or potential threats. Sensory awareness is cultivated passively, an ever-present skill woven into the fabric of daily life. In these moments, the village remains alert without tension, embodying a state of calm preparedness. The rhythm of life, labour, learning, ritual, storytelling and observation culminates in this nocturnal calm. Each day's work, whether tending fields, repairing boats, preparing meals or telling stories, converges in a quiet acknowledgement of continuity and resilience. Skills, knowledge and cultural values are internalized, ready to be expressed and applied the following day. Even as villagers rest, the cycle of education, skill transmission, and cultural reinforcement persists. Dreams often replay the day's lessons, hunting strategies, craft techniques or stories, solidifying memory and imagination. Humour, observation and reflection coexist with rest, ensuring that every individual from child to elder remains connected to the village's collective rhythm. Through the night, the Viking community exemplifies balanced survival and creativity, discipline, and play tradition and adaptability. Life flows seamlessly between labour and rest, instruction and observation, storytelling and practical action, forming a cohesive, resilient and vibrant society that thrives in its northern environment. As sleep deepens, the village remains alive in quiet ways, sustaining knowledge, culture and connection, ready to awaken and repeat the cycle with renewed energy, wisdom and ingenuity. The night deepens and a soft calm settles over the Viking village. Fires flicker low in the longhouses, casting gentle shadows on timber and thatch, while embers whisper the stories of the day's labour and laughter. The rhythmic breathing of humans and animals intertwines, forming a quiet symphony of life that persists even as sleep claims each villager. Soft reflections linger, the lessons learned in craft agriculture and hunting, the shared jokes and storytelling that carried culture from one generation to the next, the small acts of care that ensured survival and cohesion. These moments are slow, deliberate and almost timeless, allowing the mind to wander gently across the day's experiences. Even in rest, observation, imagination and reflection continue, embedding memory and understanding into both skill and spirit. Children dream of playful adventures and heroic exploits, their minds rehearsing the lessons of the day, how to tie knots, recognize tracks or remember a tale's moral. Adults drift between consciousness and rest, contemplating tasks completed and anticipating challenges ahead. Humour, creativity and quiet satisfaction linger, softening any tension and reassuring the soul. Outside, the wind rustles, leaves, carries distant water sounds and stirs the faint smell of smoke, grounding the village in its environment. The stars above watch silently, offering both guidance and wonder, linking human activity to the vast cycles of nature. time slows, allowing connection continuity, and the subtle reassurance that life with all its routines and rituals continues reliably. In this gentle, dimly lit world, the Viking village rests and dreams as one secure in its rhythms and traditions. Every stitch, every step, every story told and remembered forms a tapestry of survival culture and community. And as the night deepens, listeners and villagers alike can rest, knowing that the world is held together by the careful, thoughtful, and often joyful work of everyday life.